Ginyong was a failed baseball player working in a factory until a legendary pitcher's ghost gave him a magical system that could make him stronger. Even though his pitches were slow and weak, he gained perfect control that let him strike out anyone who faced him. Starting from company games to the professional league, Ginyong became famous for his woo celebration and trash-talking opponents on the mound. However, before all this, at the Seoul home stadium, Ginyong heads out to the pitcher's mound when someone decides to tease him a little bit by asking him if he is feeling nervous. Ginyong replies that he needs to stop talking so much because he has to save his throat so that he can yell loudly after he strikes someone out just like he usually does. In the world of professional baseball, every single year there are thousands and thousands of high school athletes who participate and try out in the draft hoping to make it big. Unfortunately, not even 10% of all those players actually end up wearing the official uniform of a professional baseball team. However, the sad reality is that the majority of the players who don't actually get called up to become professional players end up suffering from serious injuries that are so bad that they cannot be healed properly. However, there is someone who has numerous injuries along with economic difficulties put down the baseball he was holding and left the ground. Ginyong's father sends him meals 3 times a day and now he sent him more than that, gloves, spikes and various baseball-related things. Ginyong grabs the ball and feels weird because it's been around 6 years since he put a ball between his thumbs. 3 days ago, Ginyong's boss asked him why he didn't tell him that he was a former baseball player because he wants him to participate in upcoming match. However, Ginyong explains that it has already been 6 years since he stopped playing because of an old injury, so he says he can't take part in the match anymore. Ginyong's boss doesn't accept that and insists that he must participate, even going as far as calling someone to raise the amount of their bet. In the present time, Ginyong thinks about throwing away all his old baseball gear right after the game on Saturday, but then his eyes stop on Kim Jinho's signed ball. Kim Jinho was a legendary player who earned 251 victories in only 11 seasons, and with just his fastballs and unshakable spirit, he ruled over the major leagues. To the younger Ginyong, Kim Jinho had always been a bright hero on the mound, someone who seemed like he would never fade away, but as always, life turned out to have its own unexpected twists. 10 years ago, he passed away at the age of 31 due to a traffic accident, and at his funeral, he cried because of someone's death for the first time. Suddenly, there is a blackout in Ginyong's house and he tries to find a flashlight, but then Kim Jinho's ghost appears out of that signed ball, which shocks Ginyong. A notification window then appears in front of Ginyong, saying baseball managers have started. The system shows Ginyong's details and tells him that he has 1 ticket for the bronze roulette. It then shows the amount of points that would need to spin the roulette. Seeing that, Kim Jinho starts acting weird and laughs at Ginyong's stats because they are so low, but Ginyong tells him to be quiet as he is already stressed. Ginyong then yells at him that suddenly a ghost appears in front of him and then a stuff like a game status window. He can't talk normally. Jinho then asks him if he is a fan of him, as his name used to be the Silent Assassin during the first season in the major leagues. Hearing that, Ginyong quickly says yes, and he made sure to watch every single game of him. Jinho then decides to ask him for a quiz about it, saying during the Oakland game the opposing team batter was saying something bad about him or his parents, so he threatened him. Ginyong then says that then he strikes him out, and that's how he got the nickname the Silent Assassin. However, Jinho tells him to test out the baseball manager thing of his system window. Ginyong decides to check out and activates the bronze roulette. The system then asks Ginyong if he would like to spin the roulette, but Ginyong thinks that the chance that he gets a gold skill is 1%, but he still tries it. The next day, Ginyong goes to his baseball game where the department head from his company asks if he used to be an athlete because of how fit he looks. The man also says that since it's been 6 years since his injury, it should be healed by now. After that, Ginyong gets ready to pitch, while his boss secretly thinks that Ginyong is going to embarrass himself today. On the field, Ginyong takes his position and tries to throw a fastball, but it ends up being a slow one that the catcher easily grabs. Seeing this, everyone assumes Ginyong just needs to warm up, but when he throws the next pitch, it comes out much better than before. The catcher tells Ginyong that he likes his form and where the ball lands, but says it's just too slow, then tells him to take a break and get some rest. However, Ginyong feels upset being treated like this even in a simple neighborhood baseball game, realizing that this is the limit of what he can do now. He starts thinking that he could never make it as a pro again, but then Jinho tells him that he actually throws better than he expected. Jinho explains that his old coach once saw real potential in him, since for a high school baseball coach, the most important thing is spotting players who might go pro one day. Just then, Ginyong suddenly sees a baseball team with numbers floating above their heads, and Jinho explains that he can collect those points to use for spinning roulettes. Afterward, another team's match begins, and one of their batters hits 3 home runs in a row. The coach thinks that the player must have taken a break from baseball because of an injury. He also hears that the player is going to join the Goyang Stars, an independent league team, and getting accepted there basically means he's already at a pro level. Meanwhile, Jinho wonders why someone that skilled is even playing in a company baseball game. Seeing this, Ginyong gets nervous and decides to pray since he feels like he can't face a player like that. As the game goes on, everyone on the batter's team reminds him that Ginyong already gave them 3 home runs, so they tell him to stay calm and keep his focus. However, the pitcher throws 3 base-on-balls in a row, which makes Ginyong's boss furious. Finally, Ginyong gets back to the field again, and this time, the boss decides to send Ginyong as a pitcher, saying he should not let them have a single point because if he does, he won't be coming to office tomorrow. Ginyong then gets to the field and asks Jinho for advice, but Jinho tells him not to throw a 100 miles per hour ball, nor a slider or a changeup. Seeing Ginyong throw, the other team thinks that he is pretty good at throwing ball, but he won't last long against Ginyong. Jinho then concludes that he has no idea at all what kind of advice he should give to him, but he suggests and recommends that he should test out and try the skill that he got from the roulette game last night. The previous night, Ginyong got and received the perspective change skill from the roulette game. Back in present, Ginyong finally activated his baseball manager system for the first time. The system then informs and tells Ginyong that he can earn and collect bonus points if he manages to strike out a batter, and it turns out that the points on the batter's head are actually 350, which is super high for the system. Ginyong then thinks to himself inside his own mind that Ginyong has never seen his pitching before in the past, which gives him a big advantage over the batter. He throws the ball with all his strength, and it lands perfectly as a strike right in the zone. Ginyong notices that Ginyong's pitching form and timing are definitely different from the others, so he decides to let the next ball pass on purpose. However, Jinho tells Ginyong that Ginyong is planning to miss another ball and says he will give him some advice. Jinho explains that being tall is usually an advantage for a pitcher, but for a batter, it's the opposite because the taller they are, the bigger their strike zone becomes. Finally, Ginyong decides to use his perspective change ability. The system then displays to Ginyong a window which says that he will use up 3 stamina points and be able to throw the ball to exactly where he wants it to go. Ginyong can now notice a moving target that shines like a bright star on the department head's mid right in front of him. Afterward, Ginyong throws a fastball with all his power that Ginyong misses completely and swings through, and the referee calls it a strike right away. Seeing that amazing pitch happen, Ginyong's boss and other colleagues start cheering loudly for him, and they are even ready to give him free drinks if they manage to win this game today against the other team. On the other hand, Ginyong realizes that the ball goes in the same exact course without a single ounce or bit of error at all. He accepts that everything he gets from the system is actually real now and not just a dream or his imagination. Jinho then asks Ginyong if he is going to throw another one with the same course, and Ginyong is planning to catch him off guard. Afterward, Ginyong throws another ball the way he wanted, but surprisingly Ginyong hits the ball, but it gets a foul. Ginyong then wonders that no matter how hard Ginyong attacks the corners, he can hit a ball that he can see. However, Ginyong starts to feel real fear on the mound for the first time in 6 years. But then, Jinho tells him that Ginyong will easily hit almost any pitch now, no matter if it's 10 kilometers or 100 kilometers. He advises Ginyong to think carefully and use his brain to figure out how to beat a batter who actually wants to hit his weak pitches. Hearing that, Ginyong realizes that the fastest ball he can throw only reaches the mid-100 km range, and the only way to defeat a monster who wants to crush such slow pitches at his level is by doing one thing. Ginyong then throws a curveball, and it flies cleanly into the catcher's mitt, which leaves the stadium silent for a minute before Jinho whispers Ginyong about third base. Ginyong quickly tells the catcher to throw the ball to third base, and the catcher reacts fast, making the throw right away. With that move, all 3 runners get out one after another. In the end, Ginyong's team wins the match, and everyone rushes toward him, cheering and celebrating his victory. However, right then, the system notifies Ginyong that his bonus points have been added, and he even receives some extra rewards on top of that. Later that evening, the coach of the Goyang Stars meets with Yunseo, the operations leader of the Seoul Angels, who asks him where Ginyong is. Just then, someone gets a phone call saying that Ginyong lost to a new pitcher, which leaves everyone shocked. Later that night, Ginyong breaks down in the training grounds while Ginyong is celebrating his victory with his office workers. The next day, Ginyong tells Jinho clearly that he is done with baseball and will not play anymore, even though he has something as amazing as the baseball manager system with him. Hearing that news, Jinho gets upset with his decision, but Ginyong explains that his family's well-being and safety is at stake here. He further adds that if he quits his job right now to play baseball instead, his family will end up in serious trouble and financial problems. Sometime later, Ginyong arrives at an old and abandoned factory building, a place so creepy that it even scares Jinho, who is usually brave about things. Suddenly and out of nowhere, a group of workers starts gathering and coming around Ginyong from different directions, praising him and saying nice things about how he did a great job yesterday during the game. But as soon as the section manager shows up, everyone quickly scatters and runs away. The manager then takes Ginyong over to a new machine that he knows nothing about, and the section manager gets angry and upset instead of helping him out. Ginyong starts working on the machine anyway despite not knowing what to do, and quietly tells Jinho that the reason the section manager is acting like this and being mean is because he lost his position as the team's pitcher in the game. Suddenly, Ginyong's hand gets caught and injured badly by the machine while he is working, causing the boss to rush over quickly and ask why he was even using the grinder machine in the first place without proper training or knowledge about it. The boss then starts yelling at Ginyong, accusing him of falling asleep while using it, which makes everyone in the factory believe that the whole accident was Ginyong's fault. Later Ginyong wraps a bandage around his right hand and thinks to himself that it does not really matter anymore if he is hurt since he is not a baseball player. Just then, his phone rang and it was his father calling him to ask about the game that happened on Saturday earlier. Ginyong tells him that he won the game, but his father says that he finally found a job after looking for so long and will be starting work very soon at his new place. He asks Ginyong if he still loves baseball deep down in his heart. He goes on to say that he did everything he possibly could to keep their family going and surviving while he was sick and unable to work, but now that things are getting better and improving for them. So, if Ginyong still has feelings and passion for baseball in any way, he hopes and wishes that he will live his life doing what he truly loves and enjoys the most. The next day, Ginyong kicks his boss's door and throws a resignation letter at his face, saying that he will be waiting for his severance pay. 2 months later, Ginyong arrives at the baseball field to take a test, and Jinho asks if he thinks he can pass, but Ginyong says he doesn't think he has a chance. He admits that he isn't confident about passing because he followed Jinho's advice and all he has done for the past 2 months is run and stretch in the mornings, then watch baseball while eating and spend the rest of the time just resting. However, Jinho says there's a reason he told him to do all that, because what really matters is that the baseball manager sees proof of his skill and Ginyong's pitching speed and stamina have already gone up a lot. It turns out that Ginyong is here to try out for the Goyang Stars, an independent baseball team that isn't part of the Korean baseball organization. Even so, they still managed to produce 3 pro players last year, and it's also the team where the rising star Ginyong plays, which makes many people see the Stars as an impressive and well-known team. After that, Ginyong takes the conditioning test, and Jinho thinks he might not pass the physical part. Then the pitching coach steps up and says he's going to run a friendly game today. He asks if anyone wants to join, and Ginyong quickly raises his hand. Soon, Ginyong stands on the pitching mound to face a batter from another team. He throws the first pitch and it's perfect as the batter can't hit it, which makes him mad. On the second pitch, the batter hits the ball but he gets out right away, ending his turn fast. After that, the second batter steps up, and Ginyong suddenly throws 2 balls for no clear reason, making the batter think something isn't right. Then Ginyong throws another pitch, and this time the batter manages to hit it, but he still gets out right away, and Ginyong easily earns 33 points. Even so, Ginyong feels good because his pitches feel smoother and stronger than they did back in high school, and he starts to wonder if it's because he has been holding a baseball all the time just like Jinho told him to. Just then, a strong batter with a 50-point record shows up and quickly notices that Ginyong is a repertoire pitcher, which means he tricks batters by throwing easy-looking pitches and then uses a changeup when the time is right. Ginyong throws the ball, and the batter thinks he can easily hit it, but then he realizes too late that it's a changeup, and he gets out just like the others before him. Meanwhile, a man watching from the side thinks that Ginyong's timing for the changeup is perfect and starts wondering if Ginyong is trying to show that he's a slow pitcher who uses the best weapon a slow pitcher can have. At that moment, the director of the Goyang Stars walks up to the coach and tells him to send Ginyong to the mound for the 3rd inning. We get a flashback when Jinho asks Ginyong if he is still considering things even after giving his letter of resignation. Juno then tells him that he strikes out Junhyang and because of that he has a roulette spin, so he should use it now and see. Afterward, Ginyong spins the roulette and he receives a breaking ball miracle ability which is actually grade gold. However, Ginyong still looks sad, so Jinho asks why he is not happy about it, so Ginyong asks what a pitcher like him has to raise first in terms of his abilities. Hearing that, Jinho starts laughing and tells him that the only weapon for a trash and slow pitcher like him is something important. Back in present, the coach asks Ginyong if he would take part in a 3rd inning Oswell and Ginyong happily accepts. Afterward, the match begins and the batter wonders if Ginyong is giving up easily and throwing an errorang ball without trying hard. But Ginyong throws a curveball instead that the catcher easily catches without any problems at all. The batter gets nervous and thinks to himself that the curve and slider had to be bait and tricks as Ginyong cannot even throw straight properly, but he realizes and figures out that Ginyong's final pitch is always a changeup every single time. Ginyong throws a ball forward and the batter manages to hit it with his bat, but he easily gets out as Jinho catches the ball smoothly in his glove. At that exact moment, Ginyong realizes that the only real weapon and advantage for a slow and not-so-great pitcher like him is the changeup pitch that can trick batters completely. After that, the game keeps going and Ginyong amazingly strikes out 9 batters in a row, earning 400 points. Because he successfully finishes 3 perfect innings without any mistakes, he also gets another 300 points as a reward. Later that day, the director and coaches gather for a meeting, still shocked that there's a pitcher whose fastest pitch only reaches 120 kilometers. The coaches argue that if they include someone like him on their team, it might make the whole team look weak and damage their image. Just then, the pitching coach asks if there are any other pitchers who caught their attention besides Ginyong, but everyone stays quiet. The coach then explains that Ginyong had been hiding his real skills during the first and second innings, and his true ability only showed in the third inning. He suggests that they should recruit him and test him in their next game after the end of February. He also adds that Ginyong should be assigned as the starting pitcher against the Daegu Ravens. Meanwhile, Ginyong waits nervously for a reply from the Goyang Stars to know if he's been accepted or not, and then his phone suddenly rings as it turns out that he's officially accepted. The next day, Ginyong sits down to have his breakfast and eats his food like he normally does while watching a sports match on his tablet. Ginyong slowly starts to understand what happened to him and thinks that this is just the beginning of his journey. Ginyong looks into the virtual manager, but the glowing screen does not show anything interesting or useful. Kim Jinho floats up to Ginyong and tells him that he still has 1 silver roulette ticket that he can use. Kim points his finger at Ginyong and tells him that things will not be easy, and the silver roulette ticket is there to help him. It turns out that Jinho is right again and the bonuses help Ginyong's characteristics get better slowly but surely. Afterward, Ginyong spins the roulette wheel and the dark sky lights up with a very bright light. Kim Jinho and Ginyong look at the result together, but they do not see any real benefit from using the ticket. The screen shows words that say one of the servers will become higher in rank, but this effect only lasts for 24 hours. Later, at the stadium, another warm-up session takes place and pitchers practice their throws and batters hit the balls. On the other hand, coach talks with the director and tells him that he has already notified everyone about accepting 3 candidates and prepared a new schedule for the season. He reports to the director that this year there will be 12 fewer matches, and there will also be a 36th exchange match against a team of newcomers. The director listens carefully and thinks about how independent teams have already won 36 times before. Professionals do not have to play against independent teams, but because of the official pros and baseball fans, this is the first time such an exchange match has taken place. Each game is a chance for the Homeland Stars to experience what it feels like to compete with professional players. Director tells the coach to work out a game plan with the Dragons and then leaves quickly for his upcoming meeting with the heads of the Seoul Angels. While management discusses future plans, Ginyong arrives safely at the Homeland Stars training camp and checks into room number 302. He walks around the room like an excited child and shows Kim that he now has a good bed, a spacious room. He looks at the gym and training area with amazement, and he sees the cafeteria with tons of food available. This whole setup costs only 700,000 a month, but Kim is sarcastic about it. He tells Ginyong that he once played for 10 million a month. Kim explains that it is normal for players to pay themselves to get into baseball, but when they become professionals, they get paid instead. Ginyong lives in a small rooftop house and can't even dream of having a better place to live. He gets angry at Kim and charges him with his fists, but Jinho quickly calms him down and tells him to listen because he has something important to say. Afterward, Jinho explains that the big difference between the major and minor leagues isn't just the level of skill, but also the living and working conditions. He tells Ginyong that when he was young like him, he spent an entire season playing in the minor leagues. Even though his skills were good enough, he was never called up to the major leagues. He had to make his mind stronger and develop a sense of thirst to feel the hunger for victories. Moreover, Jinho learned this lesson and remembered it for the rest of his life because only those who feel this hunger in the lower league can become real monsters in the major league. Later, Jin finds on changeup of the Dragons, the current best pitcher who throws over 100 balls at over 150 kilometers. Afterward, changeup walks up to Ginyong and says that even if it's the independent league, a kid like him is the best starting pitcher, and then he starts messing around with Ginyong's hairs. The director watches the players closely from his observation deck as his eyes focus on center field. He thinks that Changeup is the best pitcher of the current era of professional baseball, and he is among the players on the Daegu Ravens. Many people know that after the disqualification, Changeup will be sent to play in a friendly match with the Ginyong's team, and Ginyong will have to compete against him. Coach is not sure that the guy should play today, and he asks director about this. The director watches the situation closely while the coach shares his opinion about the upcoming match. He worries that Ginyong will lose all his interest in baseball. Ginyong also worries that no matter what he shows in the qualifying games, Changeup will still have tricks up his sleeve. A glowing screen appears in front of the guy's face and reminds him of bonuses and points. Jinho and Ginyong discuss their serious opponent and develop a strategic plan for the match with Changeup. Reporters gather at the friendly match of the Independent League, and this is not surprising because they come to film the match with the second Kim Jinho. After thinking about how Ginyong and Changeup are no match for each other, Jinho doubts whether Ginyong should even take part in the match. However, Ginyong decides to stick to his plan and focus on throwing his pitches. He glances at the glowing screen again, rereads the messages, and resolves that he will simply show everyone what he is truly capable of. The game begins and quickly heats up, moving at a fast pace. The Homeland Stars catcher gets ready for his pitcher's next throw, while the Dragons batter grins confidently, full of determination. In the stands, a group of elderly men cheer loudly for the Daegu Ravens, shouting warnings to be careful and encouraging their batter to give it his all. These aren't just ordinary fans, they're veterans and former professional players who have been on the field themselves and aren't here just for fun. When it comes to non-professional baseball, they are the best. As senior colleagues, they've already experienced the pain of losing games and know how to handle it. Led by the respected director, they take their day off to come here and help the younger players reach their full potential. The director watches not only the game but also keeps a sharp eye on a player who is whistling under his breath. This cheeky player ignores everything happening around him and doesn't even bother paying attention to the game. Instead, he amuses himself by tossing the ball up and catching it over and over. Occasionally, he fails to catch it, and the ball safely drops to the floor. Meanwhile, the game in the stadium goes on as usual. The mischievous player picks up the rolled ball, knocks it on the floor, and continues his little game. Soon, he'll have to start playing seriously, but for now, he keeps whistling his silly songs without a care in the world. Nothing stops him, not even the presence of respected veterans nearby. Director turns to the young man who continues to sit on the bench without moving and twirls the ball in his hand. The respected veteran calls Changeup by name and patiently waits for the guy to respond. Silence follows again as Changeup deliberately ignores director and pretends that no one is around. Unable to bear it, the respected veteran comes close to the guy and calls his name for the third time. Changeup responds by calling the director an old man. Seeing no sign of respect or good manners, the director loses his patience, grabs the young man's hand, and squeezes it tightly, causing the ball to fall to the ground. Furious, he orders the impudent player to warm up on the field and sternly reminds him that he is a coach first, not some old man to be ignored. The young man snaps back with biting words, filled with rudeness. The coach warns Changeup with a cold tone to watch his words and actions. Ignoring the warning, Changeup turns away from the director and angrily fires back with yet another nasty remark. Changeup takes the field and heads toward the pitcher mound as the game takes a different turn. He has no shortage of strength, speed, and ball control. He considers himself the best pitcher of the present time, which is why he is so daring. Changeup throws pitches and the coaches of the Homeland Stars team measure the speed of his baseball out of curiosity. After some thought, the Stars coaches decide it is time for batter Wilson Miller to shine, and they call him out first. The figure of the 100-point batter takes position in the home plate, ready to hit Changeup's pitches, and he begins to take aim with his bat. Ginyong waits behind the player's bar, preparing for his start as the pitcher, and asks Jinho if the 100-pointers will get their mark. Jinho replies no, explaining that the Dragons easily get the first and second batters out with regular pitches, and Wilson will have a tough time making contact. Then, Changeup steps up, swinging with his leg high and pushing the ball out with his fingers. The ball flies straight without spinning as Wilson swings his bat. Watching this, Jinho trusts in the 100-point monster and anticipates his return to the Homeland Stars team when Wilson hits the second serve. Meanwhile, the Dragons coach talks about the arrogant and daring player that the experts have been discussing so passionately. Coach Allen tries to influence Changeup's behavior, suggesting that he pay closer attention to his opponent, the pitcher from the Homeland Stars team. Despite repeated attempts to reach the player, nothing seems to work, and the coach grows frustrated with the lack of response. Eventually, the veteran concludes that the real challenge for the Dragons isn't just the batters from the stars of the motherland, but Ginyong himself. He has been observing him closely for a long time. Kim, as always, offers advice and equips Ginyong with various tricks and changeups, encouraging him to stay strong and not give up despite the mounting pressure of the game. Ginyong prepares to throw to the attacking team, and opposite him stands an opponent with a 35-point rating. The Dragon batter has only Ginyong's changeups on his mind, and he prepares to hit them. Ginyong decides to use his secret weapon and score as many points as possible. Kim suddenly appears and intervenes as always, seeing doubts with his questions. When the guy is already preparing to throw the ball, Jinho reminds Ginyong of their old conversation, or rather the advice and the lesson he learned. Without a drop of doubt, Ginyong nods his head in the affirmative and prepares to put on a show. The guy wraps his fingers around the ball on the seam, twists his wrist hard, and throws it with a slight deflection into the right corner. The Dragon's batter is not ready because from his position he can only hit a changeup. He cannot change his position and react quickly enough. He swings but loses his balance. An expert discusses at the referee's table that this is an interesting pitcher who hit a good pitch called a slider. The referee announces the end of the fourth inning, and the Homeland Stars go on the attack while the Dragons take up defensive positions. Ginyong sits at the player's counter while the virtual manager flashes glowing messages and adds bonus points for his achievements. He feels upset because there are a lot of bonuses in front of him, but he receives them only for his first achievements. The guy does not understand what will happen next, and like a child hungry for a toy, he takes a moment to imagine what he could get after his first victory. From the opposite side of the stadium, Director watches Ginyong and his joyful movements. Director becomes convinced that the guy from the Homeland Stars team is interesting not only for his good changeups. While the Dragons coach is lost in thought, Chanseep approaches him feeling very annoyed. Chanseep complains that the Dragons did not steal a single base, did not score a single run, and were pitched by such a terrible pitcher. Finally, the impudent man realizes that there are other players besides him and heads to the serving circle to take up defensive positions. Playing so poorly even in a simple match between independent teams is a huge blow to Chanseep's pride. After striking out batter, Chanseep intends to urgently return to professional sports before he completely sinks here. Wilson Miller takes a position in the home zone, and he is not afraid of either Chanseep as an opponent or his threats. Chanseep prepares to serve his signature throw called the knuckleball, making his opponent think that the ball will fly straight. The ball actually flies straight and then abruptly changes its trajectory, but the batter who watches the ball still manages to hit it. The force of the blow sends it out of bounds, and the umpire calls a home run. Chanseep is not happy and looks at the ground in frustration. The home run announced by the umpire completely enrages him. When the batter is able to hit the ball, Chanseep screams at the top of his lungs and calls the batter with curse words. However, Kim Jinho takes a closer look at Chanseep and concludes that he is completely crazy. These eyes are no longer just pitcher's eyes, and they are the eyes of a predator, filled with hatred and an intense thirst for revenge. While Ginyong talks with Kim, the Homeland Stars coach approaches him and asks if he's ready to step in during the fifth inning. Ginyong thanks the coach for the opportunity and eagerly agrees, excited to join the game and face the challenge. Journalists surround the experts and interview them, bombarding them with questions, but the outcome of the game is still unknown. It seems like the experts have only a few final words left as they draw their conclusions from the game that hasn't even ended yet. Batter Wilson, with sharp eyes like a hunter ready to finish off his prey, could easily become the star of the match instead of Chanseep. But maybe there's someone else, one expert thinks while studying the pitch data on his computer screen. That person is pitcher Ginyong, a small, energetic player with a confident stance and surprising pitches that no one sees coming. Later, Ginyong looks through the sports newsfeed on his phone and he happily informs Jinho that he found an article right on the main page. While Ginyong is feeling happy, Jinho is also quietly pleased, but first he checks the bonuses Ginyong earned and whispers about them into Ginyong's ear. Amid his excitement, Ginyong requests the system manager to give him a ticket to the Platinum Roulette for his winnings from yesterday, and he immediately feels a bit embarrassed asking for it. All Ginyong really wants is something meaningful to happen so that he can get a proper chance to step into the world of professional baseball. The batters he defeated are nowhere near the skill level of those he has yet to face. Ginyong wants to make his contribution to the world of baseball, but he started too late, and while his number is only 16, things are difficult. After exchanging the 4,000 points he earned for a bronze ticket, Ginyong hears Jinho's advice and decides to use the roulette. Coming closer to this miracle, Ginyong and Jinho carefully look at the drum cells and realize that nothing useful will fall out there. After thinking for a minute, they decide to rotate it anyway and turn the drum with all their might. When the roulette stops, Jinho is happy as a child while Ginyong feels upset. The guy's stamina increases by 1 level, and the glowing screen displays useless messages one after another. While Jinho continues to mock him, Ginyong says that he has another ticket, only this time for gold roulette. He resolutely approaches the drum which emits a glow even brighter than before. They both look with interest at the golden segments of the roulette. At that moment, Ginyong dreams of a super prize and a feeling of thirst for easy money arises in the guy. He spins the luminous drum as hard as he can. From the outside, it seems that the guy will explode and his nerves will snap. Jinho tries to reason with him because life should not be uncontrollable. The drum keeps beating relentlessly, and the guys continue shouting excitedly, anticipating the bonus they hope to receive. Kneeling down with his eyes closed, Ginyong silently prays for his most cherished wish to come true. Finally, the roulette stops, and Ginyong carefully opens one eye to peek at the frozen drum cell. A blue glowing screen appears, and he reads the message, his fastball has improved. Meanwhile, the coach and the experts gather in the office of the Goyang Stars director. The coach explains to the audience that their team now receives a lot of funding, and all of it is thanks to the loss of the dragons, or more specifically, Chansey Party. But it is necessary to face the facts and study the situation in more detail and thoroughly. Having won with a score of 1-0, batter brought a point to the Goyang Stars team, and everyone agrees with this fact. Another fact is that all the batters failed to get a single base, and in the end, the victory is brought by pitcher Ginyong, who was not on the team originally. At the end of the meeting, coach announces to the crowd that tomorrow there will be a friendly match with the Seoul Angels. Journalists are planned to be present at the game, and it is unacceptable to allow a loss. The director continues his speech as it is the third hour of negotiations. It is necessary to discuss one more main point, which is the register of players at tomorrow's game. From the side of the relief pitcher zone, the director proposes Ginyong as a shift man. Coach is not happy, but the argument remains the same. By bringing victory, Ginyong becomes an official player of the team. Meanwhile, Jinho sits in the training room explaining to Ginyong how to throw the improved fastball he obtained from the roulette. The balls that Ginyong throws don't feel like a new skill at all, which makes him even angrier. He asks Jinho to explain it more simply, but that's not the case because Jinho never looks for easy ways. Jinho lists the varieties of fastballs, saying they come as 4-seam, 2-seam, and cutter, bending the fingers of his right hand as he explains. Jinho hopes that Ginyong now understands everything about fastballs and how crucial this pitch is for any pitcher. Slowly, understanding begins to dawn on Ginyong as he realizes that pitchers of the past have always modified their pitches, and over time there have been countless changes. Yet one fact has remained constant: pitchers always threw the fastball more often than any other pitch. Jinho continues explaining this while Ginyong listens intently, absorbing every detail with interest. Ginyong wonders if he can only throw a 4-seam fastball. Jinho replies that in the era of fastballs, nothing is more important than the speed and quality of these pitches. He places a hand on Ginyong's shoulder and points toward the glowing screen. Ginyong has excellent fastball skills, but he doesn't fully appreciate it yet. Afterward, Ginyong arrives at Angels Park in Incheon, which is owned by Hyunsung Group, the sponsor of the Seoul Angels, the second greatest team stadium. After their victory in 1992, the Angels have only been falling, but the only reason they were able to invest in something like this was because the niece of the Hyunsung Group, Yunseo, ended up becoming the operations manager. Ginyong keeps staring at Yunseo, realizing that she looks even younger than he first thought, but then the coach shouts at him to focus before the game starts. Meanwhile, Yunseo asks someone who the player wearing number 16 is, and the person tells her that it's Ginyong, the winning pitcher who didn't allow a single point against Chansey. After that, the commentators switch on their microphones and start chatting, cracking jokes, and making fun of almost every player on the field in a lighthearted way. Meanwhile, Ginyong starts thinking about Sunwoo, believing that he's going to grow into a great pitcher someday. Still, he also feels that their own team isn't bad at all, especially since Viljun used to be a really strong player back in his pro league days. Afterward, Jinho tells Ginyong seriously not to take his eyes off the Angels bench today, including the coaches, the players stepping up at bat, and the hitters who are waiting for their turn. He tells Ginyong to ingrain and memorize all their movements into his head so he knows and understands what a real pro team is like in action. Afterward, the match begins with Angels player Yunsung doing and hitting a 3-run home run that clears the fence easily. Watching the game unfold right in front of him, Ginyong points out that all the players are constantly communicating and talking with one another. The batter standing at the plate, the one sitting on the bench, and even those returning after their turn are all sharing what they noticed. The other players sitting nearby and the coaches in the dugout are also joining in, discussing and passing information around so that everyone stays connected and aware of what's happening on the field. However, Jinho says that this is the reason why he told him to pay attention, because an experience like this is hard to come across. Ginyong realized that it was okay and fine until the end of the second inning, as Philjun let them score once and started to shake a bit nervously, but it was still manageable and under control. However, he thinks and notices that the problem started at the third inning, as the looks in the hitter's eyes changed completely after the batting rotation came back around to the top. Jinho then directly asks Ginyong if he's feeling scared of pitching, and Ginyong secretly thinks about it too, knowing that going up against that strong batting lineup won't be easy at all for someone like him. Still, he tells himself firmly that he won't let himself be scared by the secondary players on the opposing team. Shortly after that, the coach calls out to Ginyong and tells him to start warming up in the bullpen right away, since he's going to pitch in the 7th inning of the game. Meanwhile, the pitchers who are still practicing start thinking to themselves that they do not want to pitch anymore in this game, though a few of them pretend to keep throwing a couple more balls and act like they just are not feeling well physically. The truth is that they do not want to go up to the mound and face what feels like certain defeat and failure against the strong team. But the catcher named Do-hyun believes strongly that they should still give their best effort and grab any small chance they can get to win. Suddenly, Ginyong walks up to him and greets him politely, and the two of them shake hands with each other. Do-hyun then asks Ginyong if he wants to practice something specific right now, and Ginyong replies back and says that he wants to work on a special kind of fastball pitch. Hearing that, Do-hyun decides to give Ginyong a chance and opportunity, because he is a new guy around the team, but he still cannot understand what he means by a special fastball pitch. Afterward, and right after that, Ginyong throws a special fastball that goes straight and directly towards the catcher without any curves or movements. Finally, it is the 7th inning of the game and Ginyong comes onto the plate to pitch, and the commentator thinks and believes that everyone might be expecting something from him, but only because Ginyong just came in such a garbage time when the game is already decided. However, Jinho tells Ginyong firmly not to listen to them and their comments and just show them what he got and what he is capable of doing on the mound. Afterward, the batter arrives at the plate, thinking that Ginyong can pitch around 120 kilometers and uses sliders and changeups when needed, so he decides to play it at his own pace and not rush things. Afterward, Ginyong throws a ball forward and it turns out to be a fastball, but as soon as it comes near the batter it just floats upward in the air, so he hits it instantly, which leads him to get an out right away. Seeing that strange pitch happens, the other guy from the audience thinks that it is impossible to throw rising fastballs at 120 kilometers, and even though his pitches are so slow and not very fast, how is it even possible for the ball to spin that fast and create that movement? At the bottom of the 7th inning, Ginyong mixes up his fastballs and changeups, managing to strike out the last two batters. On the other hand, Jinho thinks that Ginyong did an amazing job at getting the batters frustrated, especially since he started with straight pitches and then switched to a changeup at the perfect moment. However, Ginyong feels disappointed because the other team is already leading by 10 points, and in a situation like this, when a pitcher still has to go to the mound but can't change the outcome no matter how hard he tries, it feels like the worst thing that could possibly happen to a pitcher. The next day, the pitching coach, Kim Jung-go, tells another player not to stress himself and make sure he stretches before he pitches. Kim Jung-go trained during an era where pitchers need to throw as much as possible, but due to rough training, he wasn't able to hold his career for long. So, in order to prevent others from falling to the same fate as him, he became a coach and researched the most efficient practice method and figured out what he calls the Kim Jung-go routine. At that moment, Ginyong arrives at his training area and asks curiously what he is going to do today for practice. However, the coach coldly tells him without much care to do what he always does every day, and Ginyong complains about how he thinks that he has been abandoned by everyone. He thinks sadly that the coach is not giving him proper training and attention for the longest time now, but Jinho says that it is because he is getting personal training from him instead of the regular coach. Out of nowhere, Ginyong notices Junhyang and some other guy who tries to give him his business card, suggesting that he should join them on their team. He further tells him that once the season is over and finished, they will increase his pay by 200%, which is a lot more money. Hearing that, Junhyang turns down their offer, and the scout leaves soon after. Then, Junhyang notices Ginyong standing behind the wall. Ginyong quickly tries to explain that he wasn't eavesdropping or anything, saying he just happened to be running nearby on his usual course. But Junhyang asks him what kind of team he wants to join. Ginyong replies that, unlike other players, he doesn't really have the freedom to choose whichever team he wants to join. But if he ever had that choice, he would pick the team that could fulfill all of his requests. He then explains that his ideal team would be the one that lets him play for them for just one season and then allows him to leave afterward to join the major league. At that moment, the coach arrives and tells Ginyong directly that the director is asking for him right now, so he should go back to the office immediately. After the meeting is over, Ginyong could not believe and is shocked that during the Incheon Sharks game coming up, he is starting as the pitcher. Incheon Sharks is a top team in the league, as after claiming the top spot for 6 years straight in a row, they were a superpower team that was considered the next dynasty in professional sports. He also thinks and realizes that the Sharks have an incredible line of batters and hitters that can beat anyone they face on the field. Afterward, Jinho opens his current status window and asks Ginyong if with his current skill level right now, does he think he can win against minor league teams in a game. Ginyong then asks Jinho seriously to train him properly, which fires up Jinho, and he tells Ginyong that he will make sure he walks down a nice path to success. Finally, the day of the Sharks game comes, and the Shark scout yells at his team, telling them to beat Junhyang no matter what happens. The others who see that think it's because he once got turned down by a batter from an independent team, and that's why he's so mad now. On the other hand, Coach Jungo talks to his pitchers and reminds them that they still have a 1-point lead, so they should use the bottom of the first inning to keep it that way. He also tells Ginyong to take it slow for now, but Ginyong asks the coach if he can chew some gum first. After that, Ginyong walks to the mound, and the players from the other team talk about how Junhyang was able to hit a home run even though the ball's path looked really strange. They then talk about their own star player and wonder why someone like him hasn't not gone pro yet, as it might be because of injuries and failing grade during high school. The player's name is Jang Jun, who is the starting batter of the Sharks, and he wonders why no one is paying attention to Ginyong, as all they are talking about is Junhyang. Afterward, Ginyong throws a fastball. It goes straight to the catcher's gloves. Then, the second ball comes as a slider and Jang Jun even missed it as well, and then he misses another ball which gets a strike. However, he starts wondering why he never heard that Ginyong was good at throwing sliders, but then he tries to calm himself down. After that, Ginyong throws a perfect curveball that gets the batter out easily without any problem. Right after the pitch, Ginyong receives a bunch of rewards from his system, and it even says he will get extra points if he manages to strike out 3 batters in a row without letting anyone reach base. Watching that amazing performance, Jinho thinks for a moment and realizes that it was a perfect inning with 3 strikeouts in a row, and the last pitch was a curveball that completely fooled everyone watching. Jinho then tells him not to get too nervous about the next inning but quickly shuts his mouth, saying that he almost gave advice which he should not do. Afterward, Jinho starts laughing out loud and wonders to himself if he should just give a hint at this point to help him out, but then he tells Ginyong that he still has not faced his true crisis yet. Afterward, the referee calls for a switch of sides, but the scouts watching Ginyong notice that he's currently on a streak of 12 consecutive strikeouts, having already racked up 5 strikeouts earlier in the game. One of the scouts thinks that Ginyong is finally getting the attention he deserves, since he hasn't allowed a single hit or thrown 4 balls all the way through the 4th inning. However, the scout also realizes that some kind of article about Ginyong is bound to come out soon, and whether it will praise him or criticize him will completely depend on how he performs in the remaining innings. Later, Jinho asks Ginyong how all the hitters on his team besides Junhyang are so useless, but Ginyong says that it's just Junhyang being special and it's not an easy thing for an independent league player to get a hit on a secondary pro team pitcher. At the same time, he also notices one strange thing among the Blue Sharks batters. Pointing his finger toward the opponents, he sees the batter of the offensive team shaking like a leaf, scared of missing a pitch from a pitcher with slow speed. Right away, Ginyong remembers the Seoul Angels batters, who tried every trick to hit pitches without flinching, not even once. He decides that the weakness of his opponents is to his advantage, but his health level also drops completely, as shown on the glowing screen. Ginyong enters the 5th inning, determined not to change his plan, and keeps throwing slow pitches to his opponents. When he throws his special fastball, the glowing screen shows that his remaining health points are completely used up. The pitch is successful, and there is no limit to the joy of the Homeland Stars pitcher, who finishes the 5th inning perfectly. But Kim ruins everything again with his nasty, suspicious laugh, bringing the guy back to reality. Ginyong is exhausted from the game and has lost all his health. Kim Jinho read about this in the notice from the baseball manager. All he has to do is warn the guy that, from this moment, his hellish path full of fire begins. However, Ginyong seems to have completely forgotten what the ghost had warned him about. Frustrated, he glares at Jinho, silently demanding an explanation. Ginyong feels his strength drain away, yet the trembling in his body refuses to subside. When the coach calls him over, he greets Ginyong with a wide smile, praising him and thanking him for all his hard work. Proudly, the coach asks if he can throw even more pitches, a question that feels to Ginyong like a death sentence. Only now does he truly understand what Jinho had been talking about and the kind of grueling, painful path he had been warning him about. In past games, Ginyong only played as the first pitcher, helping the team get off to a good start. But today, as the starting pitcher, the weight of responsibility is much greater. His role is to set the pace of the game right from the beginning. Ginyong recalls how he pitched a perfect fifth inning before, striking out every batter without allowing any runs or home runs. He also thinks about Chuck Bomson, the director of the Goyang Stars, who, like any true expert, would never replace a pitcher so easily or without good reason. The coach brings Ginyong back to the present by talking about the upcoming inning. Ginyong wants to tell him that his body feels weak, but the coach doesn't believe him and won't allow any complaints about his health. After a moment of thought, Ginyong decides to return to the field and give everything he has to help the team. Jang places high hopes on his pitcher, calling him the star of the mound once again. As the umpire signals for player changes to start the new inning, Ginyong steps into the pitcher's circle. The glowing screen flashes one warning after another, and what awaits Ginyong now is known only to God and Kim, who suddenly vanishes without a trace. Later, a guy in Ginyong's gathering curses the starting pitcher of some team. Earlier, Jinho thinks that Ginyong broke the 12-second rule and he can see that he is completely mentally destroyed. However, he thinks that it's understandable since he got home run on during his first starting game, but it's something no one can avoid as even the most famous pitchers in the world got home run on the mound like this. After that, Ginyong throws another pitch, and the coach thinks it's good that Ginyong isn't nervous or shaking. He didn't expect Ginyong to be the type of player who would break down easily, but now he feels it's about time to substitute for him. The coach then turns to the director and says they should take Ginyong out, but the director tells him to hold on, saying that if Ginyong gives up one more point, then they'll make substitutions. On the other hand, two guys are making fun of Ginyong and laughing at him, saying that he is just a noob and beginner who got home run on easily and he will not even make it to pro baseball either in his life. Afterward, Ginyong throws another ball toward the plate, and the batter manages to hit a good shot with his bat, but it gets a foul ball. Ginyong then loses his mind and thinks to himself what he even does out here on the mound, as the batter's swings are powerful, which means that if he messes up even once then he is done for sure. Ginyong then gets scared as he sees the batter standing there ready to hit, but then he calms himself down quickly, thinking that as a starting pitcher he has to be responsible for this entire game. Ginyong then throws another ball, but the batter manages to hit a long shot, and just as the ball moves to the outside, Ginyong jumps and catches it. Seeing that, everyone runs up to him and calls him a pro and all those caring words. However, Ginyong tells Ginyong that baseball is a team sport that they play with 9 people and that he doesn't have to carry all the weight on his shoulders alone. Hearing that, Ginyong suddenly realizes that he is not a legendary player like Jinho was in his career, so he cannot carry all the responsibility for the entire game by himself without any help. After realizing this important lesson, Ginyong bows respectfully and tells Junhyang that they should work together for the rest of the inning and support each other, and surprisingly, the two of them manage to get 3 outs working as a team, which brings the game to an end. In the end, after all the hard work, Ginyong's team beats the Sharks and wins the match, and the man watching from the stands thinks to himself that Junhyang really lives up to his name and reputation. However, the man also notices carefully that Ginyong started to shake a little during the 6th inning because of exhaustion, but still managed to hold on and finish strong, so he passed the test. Later, the man meets Junhyang and Ginyong and says that he is here to scout for the Angels, introducing himself as Hyunkai. He tells Junhyang that his game was impressive because he managed to defeat the Sharks, and then invites him to join the Angels team. He also says that if Junhyang has any conditions, they will do their best to meet them. After that, Hyunkai turns his attention to Ginyong, who sits there feeling very nervous. However, Jinho tells him to speak up and reminds him that this is his big chance to become a pro player and eventually make it to the major leagues. Hyunkai then says that if they can meet each other's conditions, he can prepare an official contract soon, but Ginyong still can't believe how quickly things are moving and that he might actually change division so fast. Just then, the director walks in and confirms that everything they're saying is true, explaining that it's clearly written in the Goyang Stars contract that players are allowed to freely transfer to the Korean Pro League Association whenever they want. After that, everyone sits down together, and Hyunkai asks Junhyang to tell him his conditions first. Junhyang says he wants a promise that he will be a starting player, and after the official registration on May 1st, he wants his name to be on the first division list. When Ginyong hears this, he completely loses it, and to everyone's surprise, the scout agrees to everything Junhyang asks for. Afterward, Ginyong also tries to share his own requests, but Hyunkai tells him that they can't agree to any conditions and only decide whether they can accept a player or not. Ginyong thinks to himself that he should just be grateful for even getting a chance to join the Pro League, so he shouldn't waste time arguing about conditions since he might never get this chance again. Then, Jinho quickly whispers to him to say, "Kick me out of the team," and without thinking, Ginyong blurts it out loud, which instantly gets him in trouble. Later, Hyunkai calls Yunseo and tells her that Ginyong said if he plays a big part in helping the Angels win, he wants to be kicked out of the team. On the other hand, Ginyong is freaking out, blaming himself for losing such a great chance to enter the pro leagues all because of Jinho. After that, he decides to spin the roulette and it turns out he has 1 gold ticket, 1 bronze ticket and enough points for 4 more bronze spins. Ginyong spins the roulette 5 times, but at first, all he gets are health boosts. Then, he finally wins a pitching skill elixir. Afterward, he gains a special magical ability called First Inning, which is a platinum grade skill, but just then someone suddenly knocks on his door. Sometime later, Ginyong goes up to the rooftop with Junhyang, who tells him that he's not going to the major league alone. A few hours earlier, Junhyang had asked Scout Hyunkai if he could add more conditions to his contract. However, the scout, thinking he was going to say something about being kicked out after 1 year too, immediately says that it won't be possible. He then explains that taking in Ginyong is already a big gamble for their team as it could turn out great and bring success, but there's also a high chance that things could go completely wrong. He explains that this is why Ginyong was able to make that condition and request, as it lowers the risk in half as well and protects the team, but for him and his situation it is different and more complicated. He further says that he scouted 2 players for the team, but his expectations are totally different for each of them, and his team, the Angels, is not a temporary place to go into the major league later on in their careers. Back in present, Junhyang tells Ginyong that he will eventually find a way to go into the major league, so until they meet in the major league, they should work hard together. Afterward, both of them shake hands as Ginyong promises that until then he will strike himself out as well in their next match. Just then, the director arrives at the rooftop as well to interrupt their friendly quarrel between the 2 players. The coach then says that now finally the Angels' professional team is recruiting them both and it is sad for him that good players are leaving the team. However, he thinks that even if he wanted a shining star for himself on the team, he cannot drag it down to the ground and hold them back. The coach then kindly says that he will pray for both of them to go far in life and succeed in their careers, which makes Ginyong and Junhyang feel emotional about leaving their current team behind. Sometime later, at the Angels' 2nd Division dorms, the players are chatting about how one of the 1st Division pitcher spots is still open and that someone from the 2nd Division might get called up soon. Just then, Yunseo shows up and asks them which room belongs to Ginyong, leaving everyone completely shocked. On the other hand, Ginyong is busy talking to Jinho about how the other players are still being so noisy even after finishing their match. Suddenly, there's a knock on his door, and when he opens it, Yunseo walks in, saying that she's here with the coach from the 1st Division and that she's the operations manager for the Angels. Afterward, Yunseo explains to him that because player Yunsup got injured, they had to urgently call up someone from the 2nd Division minor league. She also mentions that the players nominated by the coach today will officially become part of the team after May. The coach then says he's heard the rumors about Ginyong's amazing performance in the 2nd Division minor league. He adds that, based on Ginyong's record, a 1st Division call-up seems like the obvious choice, but he's still unsure if just a few great games in the 2nd Division are enough to prove himself. Hearing that, Yunseo agrees in her mind since it's true that Ginyong has only been with the Angels for a few months, but what surprises her is how much he has changed during that short time. After that, the coach says that every player here works like crazy to earn this kind of opportunity, and if someone who only throws a maximum of 130 kilometers gets called up to the 1st Division, the other players would be furious. He adds that even the fans of the 1st Division players wouldn't believe in him, so the coach looks at Ginyong and asks if he'll be able to handle that kind of pressure. However, Ginyong says that there will be times he won't be able to handle it, but this isn't a fair reason for him to run away from the mound. Hearing that, the coach wonders if he has overcome his weak mentality, but what concerns him more is that his pitching speed continues to constantly improve. Afterward, the coach and Yunseo decide to finish his interview and go to Junhyang, but Ginyong tries to stop them. Suddenly, Junhyang gets out of the shower shirtless, yelling at Ginyong why he didn't buy some more shampoo. The next day, the commentator gets ready on the field to announce a match between the Angels and the Devils. The Devils is a strong team that ends up being a potential winner every year, and the Angels and Devils are rivals like water and oil, and their match is one of the biggest games of Korean pro baseball. Meanwhile, at a locker room a guy is yelling at someone on phone in English, which turns out that his baddie just cheated on him with someone else. Seeing that, Jinho tells Ginyong that if he goes on the mound in that state, he will get destroyed. However, Ginyong couldn't believe how money could destroy the ace of the Angels. After that, the game starts with the starting pitcher, Benjamin, who recently got cheated on, and things go badly right away when he gives up a home run to the second batter in the first rotation. Then, Benjamin throws another pitch, but this time too, the batter hits another home run. Watching this, Jinho mentions that on Children's Day, there's a rivalry game between the 3rd and 4th place teams in the Major League, and in that game, the starting pitcher also got completely destroyed. So, he asks what Ginyong plans to do now. Hearing that, Ginyong realizes he should start warming up already because there's a good chance he'll be called to pitch very soon. Afterward, the Devils team celebrates that they will easily hit over 10 home runs today while the Angels are still at 0. On the other hand, Ginyong practices his pitches and thinks that his pitches are way sharper today. However, Jinho says that he is actually embarrassing him as what he is going to do with only pitching at 130 kilometers. On the other hand, the coach receives a call from director who asks him who the current player with the most energy in the bullpen is, so he tells him that it is none other than Ginyong. Afterward, Ginyong steps onto the mound, surprising everyone who can't understand why a newbie like him has been called up, especially since he's so short. Despite their doubts, the Angels catcher, Hakan, warmly congratulates him on making his debut in the First Division League. He then tells Ginyong that even if he throws an explosive pitch, he'll make sure to catch it for him, so he should pitch with full confidence. Hearing that, both Jinho and Ginyong wonder why Hakan is so kind to him all of a sudden for no clear reason. Afterward, Jinho asks Ginyong what with confidence. Jinho and Ginyong wonder why he is being so nice to him for no reason. Afterward, Jinho asks Ginyong what his job is today, so Ginyong replies that he wants to not only strike the batter out but to kill him. On the other hand, the batter from the opposite team, Jabeum, is going as a batter. However, Ginyong then throws a ground ball right toward the batter, who hits it straight to the shortstop with ease. Seeing this, the commentator gets all excited, shouting about how amazing Ginyong is for throwing a changeup as his very first pitch in the First Division game. After that, another batter steps up to the plate and thinks to himself that Jabeum's recent success has made him overconfident since he didn't even bother to study the pitcher. However, he's different as he believes he's the type who studies and analyzes everything 2 or 3 times more than others, and based on his research, Ginyong only throws pitches that reach around 130 kilometers. On the other hand, Jinho asks Ginyong what he's planning to do next, and Ginyong replies that he's going to throw a rising fastball followed by a perspective change and then a revolver pitch. Ginyong throws the ball just like a revolver firing a bullet, and the batter ends up getting out easily. After that, Ginyong thinks that everything is going perfectly according to plan since there's plenty of information available on First Division players, which gives him an advantage because he studied beforehand. However, his real problem now is batter number 9, Hyunbin, who is known as the king of triple base, stealing a fast and dangerous hitter. Afterward, the match continues and Ginyong throws a ball that Hyunbin manages to hit, and then he quickly runs towards the bases to score some points. Hyunbin safes himself and wonders if Ginyong's agility is better than he would expect as he is almost forced out, but he thinks that it's a waste for someone as skilled as him to debut in a lost game like this. Afterward, Hyunbin's team members tell him to take it easy on the bases, which exactly means that he should stretch the lead as fast as he can and run as soon as he sees an opening. Following that, Ginyong throws a ball toward the plate and it gets called a strike by the umpire, which annoys Hyunbin a lot as Ginyong will not even glance at him on the base at all. Hyunbin then plans that this time, if he still does not look this way toward him, then he is going to steal a base and advance forward. Just then, Ginyong gets ready to throw a ball to the plate, and at that moment in time, Hyunbin leaves his base to steal another one, but Ginyong throws the ball at his base instead and he quickly gets out before reaching safely. Seeing that play happen, Jinho asks Ginyong curiously how he knew and figures out that the runner was going to try to steal a base at that moment, so Ginyong says and explains that he came to the conclusion after seeing the expression on Jinho's face and reading his body language. Following that play, Ginyong walks back to the bench as Jinho wonders why the pitcher who ended the inning with a pickoff play does not get so much as a high five from his teammates. Ginyong says that if he does better next time in the game and performs well, they will treat him well and give him more respect and recognition. However, Ginyong thinks to himself that if a scapegoat pitcher for a losing game like him wants to play again, then his team will have to once again go through hell and lose badly before he gets to pitch. However, now all he needs to do is wait patiently for another hell to come and another bad situation to happen. Later that night, Ginyong tells Jinho that his team's mood was at rock bottom, but Jinho says that their rival team pulled ahead by a whopping 13 points, which is a huge difference. Ginyong thinks to himself that Paris pitched even better than him during the game, and he is not even the First Division starting pitcher on the team. Moreover, there are even better pitchers out there who are more skilled than both of them. Afterward, Ginyong tries to spin the roulette on his system to get new skills, but Ginyong enters his room suddenly and finds a kissing scene of a Korean drama on a tablet beside Ginyong. It turns out that Jinho was watching by himself, so Ginyong quickly leaves the room feeling embarrassed. A little while later, Ginyong starts wondering about which one of his abilities he should upgrade to A rank, but this makes Jinho really angry, so he refuses to give Ginyong any advice. Even though Jinho is upset, he eventually decides to give some recommendations on his own and takes a look at Ginyong's status window to see what options are available. While looking at the stat window, Jinho says that Ginyong must have gained quite a lot of skills from playing with the Angels' secondary team. However, Ginyong quickly explains that he actually got the two-seam fastball ability because of the pitching enhancement elixir he used earlier. Regardless of how he got his skills, Jinho tells him that they really need to upgrade one of his pitching types to a rank because it should be proven by this point that Ginyong is actually a very skilled pitcher who deserves that higher ranking. The next day, the Angels match continues with the Devils and now Hyungju from the Devils arrives and everyone thinks that Devils might take the win again after yesterday. However, the commentator says that the Angels' batting lineup is terrible. After that, the match keeps going and Ginyong walks onto the field and he gets another batter from the Devils team out of the game. Jinho comes over to Ginyong and tells him that what he does from this point really matters because he needs to show everyone in this game that he isn't just throwing any random ball. However, Ginyong thinks about how he hasn't given up any points yet, but he still has to prove himself and strike out the remaining players with his new split-finger fastball pitch. Right at that moment, the first batter from the Devils team steps up to the plate and he makes contact with the ball several times in a row, which lets his team get some extra points on the board. After some time passes, it becomes the Angels team's turn to bat and their first player who steps up to the plate is Hong Woo-young, who everyone knows as the legendary home run hitter with an amazing reputation. Right after he gets into position, the pitcher from the other team throws a ball directly towards him with full force, and then Woo-young makes contact and hits the ball on a long hitting course that sends it flying far, and he runs through first base and third base without any trouble at all. While watching this happen, Jinho thinks to himself that this is a perfect batting lineup for the current situation they are in and having a batter change when there are already runners on first and third base is definitely not a good thing for the other team. At the same time, Dooyob from the Devils team walks over to the pitcher's position on the mound and throws his special pitch with everything he has, but unfortunately the ball ends up hitting the batter right on the cheek instead. The manager of the Devils team quickly makes the decision to change the pitcher to someone else, and then the inning finally comes to an end. Afterward, Junhyung from the Angels team gets ready to go up for batting next. Junhyung ends up missing a ball, so Jinho starts thinking that he is still weak just like all the other players, but Ginyong tells him that he is actually different from all the others. Right at that moment, Junhyung hits a really long home run that surprises him except for Jinho, who is actually jealous. Ginyong then takes a look around the field and realizes that the pitching staff is preparing the ultimate composition in the bullpen area with Sung Jaeun, who is known as the Angels' reliable finishing pitcher. Seeing that, Ginyong starts thinking that he is probably going to get subbed out of the game soon. After some time, the match finally gets over with the Angels team winning, and Ginyong gets really excited because this is his very first win in the professional league. Later on, Ginyong shows Jinho an article that he is featured in, so he starts wondering to himself if he is going to become a star player of the Angels team now. However, Jinho tells him to take a good look at the comments section in which people are throwing trash and negative things at him. Ginyong then starts thinking to himself that he is still not satisfied or happy with this victory at all, so he makes the decision to spin the roulette one more time again. The roulette then ends up giving Ginyong a special ability that is called Control Master, which happens to be of diamond rank and is very rare. Jinho tells him that every single time he tries to put a curse on him, things always work out perfectly in his favor and he hits the jackpot. However, since everything is going in the completely opposite direction from what he wants, he decides that he is going to cheer for him instead of cursing him anymore. After that, Ginyong makes up his mind to take one final spin, and when he does, it turns out that he ends up getting something that is completely unique and special. When the next day comes around, it is time for the third game that is scheduled to take place between the Angels and the Devils, and in a surprising turn of events, the Angels manage to win in the final game of the special event that is being held for Children's Day. All of the people involved believe strongly that this victory is entirely because of Junhyung, who has become the new rising star player of the Angels team. Later on, the coach of the Angels team announces that they are going to start the player evaluation process in preparation for the upcoming game against the Sharks. The coaches start talking about Cha Eun-ho, the team's third starting pitcher, but one of them mentions that he still hasn't fully adjusted to the team yet, even though there aren't any major issues with him. Cha Eun-ho is a left-handed pitcher who led the Daegu Rangers to the Korean Championships for 4 straight years. On top of that, he's been performing well as the third pitcher for the Angels, but some still think he isn't worth 100 million won. After that, the main coach says he wants to move Ginyong up in the batting order to the 4th spot and asks the others what they think. Hearing that, the head coach agrees that it's a good idea, but when he then asks for their opinions about Ginyong, the entire room suddenly falls silent. However, the head coach says that Ginyong hasn't really shown enough to be judged properly, but he also thinks there's no point in keeping him in the first division since he believes Ginyong is a player who can't improve any further. But then, another coach speaks up and says it would be better to keep Ginyong in the first division for now because they still need to observe his skills more closely, and he seems like the kind of pitcher who wouldn't run away from tough situations. Hearing that, the head coach gets angry, but before things escalate, the main coach steps in and makes the final decision about what to do with Ginyong. The next day, the game between the Angels and the Sharks begins. There, the interviewer introduces Junhyang as the most popular player recently and asks him how he feels about being placed in the 4th batting position. Hearing that, Junhyang replies coldly that he's just doing his best, and he keeps giving the same short answers to every question, which ends up making the interviewer annoyed. On the other hand, the Angels' veteran reporter watches from the side and thinks that Junhyang is just a fool who only knows how to play baseball and nothing else. He strongly believes that players who give perfect, well-spoken interviews like Ginyong are the ones with real potential. So, he quickly calls Ginyong over, who is out on the field practicing his pitching skills. Afterward, the interviewer asks him why he is working so incredibly hard, so Ginyong explains that it is because even if he does not get chosen to be a starter for the game, he still needs to be completely prepared to step onto the mound at any time. Once the interview is finished, Ginyong goes back to continuing his training and the interviewer thinks that Ginyong is definitely going to accomplish something really big in the future ahead of him. Sometime later, the match finally begins and Ginyong's teammates start wondering why he seems so angry today. However, Ginyong truly believes deep down that today is going to be the day when he gets chosen to be a starter for the team. However, Jinho tells him to stop wasting his time there since he's not going to be playing in this game anyway and says they should just go sit in the audience because he wants to check out the cheerleading girls. Hearing that, Ginyong gets mad at him for acting carelessly and says that even though Jinho is a legendary pitcher, he clearly doesn't understand mind control at all. Then, Jinho asks who the pitcher from the Sharks is, and Ginyong tells him that it's Alex Brady, a player whose ERA is in the ones and whose agility is even better than his pitching speed. On the other hand, Ginyong's team pitcher named Dosiop is feeling really nervous because he got given the starting position after Yoonseop left. Ginyong looks at the situation and believes that Dosiop's stats are not really amazing or impressive at all, with an earned run average of around 6, and he has not reached his full potential or shown what he is truly capable of yet. Right after that, Dosiop starts pitching on the mound, and he seems to be way too easily giving the Sharks team clean hits because he is simply just too nervous. After struggling for a while, Dosiop eventually collapses right there on the ground. Seeing that, the coaches start wondering and asking each other who is the most warmed-up pitcher available right now to take Dosiop's place on the mound immediately. On the other hand, Jinho tells Ginyong not to worry about him at all, saying that Ginyong needs to focus on winning his own games if he wants to survive and stay important in the professional league where they play. Right after that, Ginyong walks up to the pitching mound to begin his turn. Meanwhile, the Sharks batter, Sungtaek, is fuming with anger because his rhythm and momentum as the starting batter have been completely ruined and thrown off. Even though he is frustrated, Sungtaek still feels pretty confident because Ginyong only seems to have pitches that reach around 130 km per hour in speed, which means that he should be able to easily hit some really good shots. However, when Ginyong finally throws his first ball towards home plate, it ends up being called a strike by the umpire, which completely surprises Sungtaek. After that first pitch, Ginyong throws another ball towards the plate, which also gets called out as a strike against the batter. Then when it comes to the third ball that Ginyong throws, Sungtaek ends up getting struck out completely and has to walk away from the plate. Seeing that, everyone is amazed by Ginyong's splitter, calling it unbelievable, but soon they start making excuses, saying that his splitter is only at a normal league level. On the other hand, the interviewer from before watches closely and starts wondering how Ginyong has improved so much in such a short time since being called up to the first division. He thinks to himself that this kind of growth doesn't seem possible unless Ginyong got help from some kind of ghost. Another batter steps up to the plate and thinks to himself that with a splitter like Ginyong's, it would be tough to hit even if he knew exactly when it was coming. He decides to focus on filtering out the fastballs that enter the strike zone first, guessing that there's a high chance Ginyong will throw another splitter. Then, Ginyong throws 2 strikes in a row, which makes the batter start to feel nervous as he wonders what kind of pitcher goes straight for the kill using nothing but pure control. Furthermore, he thinks that Ginyong can't aim for the corners every time, so if he picks the right pitch to hit, he thinks he could hit a home run as it's not a ball and 2 strikes anyway. Just then, Ginyong throws the ball, tries to hit it, but he gets strike out. Afterward, Ginyong walks back to the bench where everyone seems to appreciate him even more now except for Jinho, who is furious at him like usual. He thinks that Ginyong doesn't deserve a compliment for striking out 2 batters, and he just thinks high and mighty for having just the tiniest bit of control in his pitches. Afterward, Jinho tells him that the little bit of control he has right now is all thanks to his overpowered skill called Control Master. However, Ginyong asks Jinho if he'll really be able to pitch well today, and Jinho replies that he warmed up just like a starting pitcher would and has already perfectly analyzed the opposing batters. Because of what happened earlier, the mood on their field feels really tense after that unlucky incident that occurred. However, the batters from the Sharks team are acting completely calm, keeping their behavior like they are true gentlemen who respect the game. Right after that, the match continues and Alex manages to get 3 outs in a row, which becomes his 8th strikeout of the day. Everyone watching starts thinking that Alex is playing absolutely insane and incredibly well today. At the same time, Alex walks back to the bench where his teammates are sitting and thinks to himself that they need to stop being so polite now. They were only acting respectful and considerate because of the earlier incident, but the truth is, they can't afford to feel satisfied just because they won the first game of a 3-match series that's still far from over. Meanwhile, Jinho tells Ginyong that since batters flip their bats after a good hit, pitchers should be allowed to have their own celebrations too. But Ginyong asks if major league pitchers also do things like that. Jinho laughs and says that in the major leagues, there are plenty of crazy players, but when they celebrate, their 100-mile-per-hour pitches usually end up flying straight toward the batter instead of the catcher's mitt. Hearing that, Ginyong smirks and decides to show everyone who the real psychopath standing on top of the mound is. The game goes on, and Ginyong throws his usual strike, which makes the batter realize that the ball's movement doesn't look like it's only 130 kilometers. Then, Ginyong throws another strike, and this time the batter gets annoyed and mutters a curse in Japanese. Thinking that the next pitch will definitely be a splitter, the batter prepares to hit it, but instead, Ginyong throws a fastball and he ends up striking out. After that, Ginyong takes off his helmet and shouts loudly, full of energy and excitement, completely fired up from the play. Seeing that, everyone wonders what he is saying and some assume that he said woo, which is some sort of ceremony. On the other hand, the players from the Sharks team are really furious at Ginyong, thinking that he did what he did just to mock them. However, one of the players thinks to himself that they are going to use every single possible method and strategy they can to win this match no matter what. At the same time, the coach of the Angels team thinks that it is really hard to beat and overcome a 5-point lead against a strong pitcher like Alex, but if they end up losing here in this game, the mood will turn really sour. Because of this situation, the coach thinks that he will just let Ginyong pop off and show his skills however much he wants to without hold back. Right after thinking this, Ginyong manages to strike out the first batter from the Sharks team, which gets Ginyong a total of 101 points and also earns him a brand new bonus reward. Ginyong then stares at Choi Young-woo, who got the highest free agent contract after sailing into professional baseball and recorded an impressive 41 home runs during last season, and he is called a living legend of professional baseball by everyone. However, for baseball fans, Tuesday nights after work are the best because they survived harsh Monday and can watch some baseball. Moreover, people start to notice that there is a newbie that is a psycho because he struck out 5 consecutive batters against the Sharks. Back to the match, Alex strikes out another batter from the Angels, and after each strikeout, Alex just yells as if he celebrates some kind of ceremony. While watching, the senior players of the Angels team get really frustrated, and one of them even thinks that if he were 5 years younger than he is right now, he would dropkick Alex. Right after that, the seniors begin cheering really loudly for Ginyong, calling him by the special nickname Woo Man. Finally, the second half of the 7th inning begins and Ginyong prepares himself both mentally and physically. He thinks that the leadoff batter who is coming up to bat this time is number 2 on the roster, Sungwon, is known as the table setter for the Sharks team because of his powerful hits. Furthermore, Ginyong thinks to himself that his ball control is really good right now, and he intentionally makes the pitcher throw more and more pitches to wear down their stamina. However, the weird and unusual part of this situation is that Sungwon seems kind of angry for some reason. However, Ginyong decides to activate his magical first inning ability that gives him special powers, and then Ginyong keeps throwing the ball over and over again towards home plate, but Sungwon manages to hit every single ball out of the strike zone. Seeing this happen, Ginyong decides to use the special ability called Revolver, which exceeds and goes way beyond Ginyong's normal pitch speed that he usually throws at. Someone gets struck out instantly without being able to react to the pitch at all, and then Ginyong yells the woo word to celebrate just like Alex. Right after that moment, Ginyong thinks to himself that he has now gotten 6 batters in a row out consecutively, and the overall record for consecutive strikeouts is 10 batters, but within the Angels team specifically, the record is only 7 batters in a row. All of a sudden, Ginyong hears the crowd of fans cheering loudly for Youngwoo as he arrives at the mound to bat. Meanwhile, Jinho explains to Ginyong that the owner of the Sharks' home stadium is actually Youngwoo himself, so everyone in the crowd is expecting and waiting for a huge home run from him right now. However, Ginyong thinks to himself that his current level of corner work and precision will be completely useless here because that guy Youngwoo is a monster player, someone who will put any pitch that comes his way over the fence no matter what happens. Because of this, Ginyong then decides to use his rising fastball ability, his perspective change ability and his revolving ability all at the same time together to deal with him and get him out. Afterward, Ginyong throws his pitch, and Youngwoo manages to hit it, but Woohyung runs straight toward the ball and, to everyone's surprise, catches it cleanly. This play causes both runners to get out, and Youngwoo can't believe that Ginyong actually pitched so aggressively. As the game continues, Ginyong strikes out another batter with ease. Seeing this, the interviewer thinks to himself that there's no need to test Ginyong any further since the team needs a new starter after Dosiop's injury, and the next 5th starting position will definitely belong to Ginyong. All of a sudden, the interviewer's assistant tells him that it looks like Ginyong is going to pitch even more innings than expected, and this news really surprises them and catches them off guard. The interviewer thinks to himself that Ginyong has already finished his duty and completed what was expected of him, but now he is going up to pitch in the 8th inning as well, which is unexpected. On the other hand, Jinho walks over and asks Ginyong why he is being so stubborn in wanting to throw more pitches when he already finished his inning perfectly without any problems at all. However, after thinking about the situation more carefully, Jinho says that the Sharks team has a 5-point lead with their ace pitcher still playing strong. In that kind of situation, it is very likely that they will go for a strong defense strategy instead of a strong offense strategy to keep and protect their lead throughout the rest of the game. Moreover, he thinks that the remaining batting order is the lower hitters with a 2 average, then it is possible for a double-digit consecutive strikeout. Hearing that, Jinho starts getting chills all over his body, but Ginyong tells him that he is going to get that double-digit strikes out no matter what. Right after that, Ginyong managed to strike out a batter, and because he achieved double-digit strikeouts in a single game for the first time. Furthermore, he will be given special bonus points by the system as a reward for his performance. Sometime later, the coach walks over to Ginyong and tells him that he did a great job out there on the mound and asks if he is thinking of going up to pitch in the 9th inning as well. However, Ginyong is already out of stamina, so it is enough for him and he cannot continue anymore. The coach tells Ginyong that next time he plays in a game, he will not be playing from the 4th inning like he did today, but instead he will play from the very first inning as a starting pitcher. After that, Ginyong quietly goes to the washroom and decides to spin the roulette in secret, but Jinho can't help wondering if it's really that important for him to do it there. Still, Ginyong goes ahead and spins it anyway, and surprisingly, he ends up getting an ability that can upgrade one of his chosen skills to a rank. Meanwhile, the first game of the 3-match series between the Sharks and the Angels finishes with the Angels batters failing to score even a single point. On the other hand, Alex Brady puts on an almost perfect pitching performance that grabs everyone's attention. Later that night, Ginyong sits quietly in his room, looking down, which makes Jinho ask if he's feeling nervous about his next game. But Ginyong explains that he's not nervous as he's just stressed out because he has too many skills and can't figure out which one to improve first. Right then, Jinho gets an idea and tells Ginyong that he should level up perspective change, because if his rank gets higher, he can use it more than once. Ginyong then wonders if he can use it on Steel Arm, and Jinho quickly agrees, saying it's perfect to start with. After that, Ginyong asks about rising fastball, and just like before, Jinho nods again, acting like he knows what he's talking about even though he's clearly faking it. In the end, Ginyong decides to use it on Control Master, which completely surprises Jinho and leaves him shocked. Right after spinning the roulette, Jinho wonders and realizes that Ginyong's pitching speed is now 130 km per hour because of the silver roulette he just used, and a notification pop-up appears on the screen saying that pitching speed will not go up or increase from the bronze roulette anymore from this point forward. However, Jinho quickly tells Ginyong not to get too excited or overconfident about this improvement because if he only pitches while trusting in his control abilities alone, he will be destroyed and beaten badly by better batters. Jinho explains in detail that having good control only means that a pitcher can execute the plan well and follow through with what they decide to do, so the better control a pitcher has, the harder they need to use their heads to think of a smart and effective plan. Furthermore, to make his point even clearer, Jinho gives an example of the famous pitcher Greg Maddux, saying that he was a weird man who acted strangely outside the mound, but he was like a professor and a master when he was on the mound pitching. Finally, Ginyong realizes that having good control isn't everything, and now it's time for him to begin his rule on the mound as a true starting pitcher. Just then, his phone suddenly rings, and when he checks, it's a call from Yunseo, who says she's feeling lonely and just wanted to talk to him. It turns out that Yunseo is actually drunk, and she asks if the Angels can really win playing the way he does. She sounds worried because she worked so hard for the team to win, and then she suddenly starts crying. After that, she tells him not to laugh when the team loses again, saying that if she ever sees that happen, she'll make sure to kick him out for real. Just then, Ginyong enters the room looking like a mess from all this hard training that he was going through. Ginyong quickly asks Ginyong why he is overdoing all this intense training and pushing himself so hard, but Ginyong gets really angry and frustrated at the question instead of answering calmly. Right after getting upset, Ginyong quickly grabs his towel and tells Ginyong directly that they lost the game today. But Ginyong wonders to himself why Ginyong is getting so mad and upset over just one single game early in the season when there are many more games to play. However, Jinho steps in and explains that, based on his own personal views and beliefs, Ginyong actually has the right mindset and attitude. He says that even though Ginyong did pretty well in the game and even got a nice reward for his individual performance, the team still ended up losing the match completely, getting shut out without scoring a single point. Jinho then goes on to explain more clearly that the real problem is when a player doesn't feel upset about losing, because that kind of reaction is actually strange. He says that while personal achievements are important for a player's career, Ginyong is still part of the Angels right now, and he should care about how the team performs, not just how well he does alone. The next day, it's the second game against the Sharks. The Angels give it their all and fight hard until the very end, but the final result ends up being 1 win and 2 losses, which means they lose the series. Even so, because of their strong desire to win, the Angels' mood isn't too bad over the next couple of days. But soon, they have to face their next challenge: 3 straight games against the Busan Titans at the Titans' home stadium. The Titans are a tough team, and the Angels know they'll need more than just momentum if they want to stand a chance against them. Afterward, Titans send their 4th batter, who demolishes the Angels with his full house home run. Soon, the Titans batters completely destroy the Angels pitchers, and the fans who spent tons of money to watch this sight were devastated. Meanwhile, the Angels scout decides to go over their plan again after realizing there was a mistake in the scouting report. On the other hand, the Angels coach feels that many of the analysis reports they've been getting aren't very accurate either. He also believes that things won't be easy this time, especially since Ginyong will be starting as the pitcher in the last game of the 3-match series. The coach thinks that Sunday's game will be the ultimate test for Ginyong to prove himself. At the same time, Jinho keeps teasing and trying to annoy Ginyong by saying that the Titans are going to win the match easily. Jinho then tells him to stop whining because he has to go to the mound not looking like a depressed person. Finally, the last day of the Titans vs Angels series arrives, and Ginyong tells the catcher that he is going to pitch mainly changeups and 2 seams, but the catcher replies that it won't be that easy. Just then, the member of the Anilast team arrives and gives a report to Ginyong. The next day, it is now the 3rd game against the Titans team, and everyone on the Angels team is feeling down and discouraged because the Titans got 20 consecutive points scored against them in previous games. On the other hand, Junhyang walks over to Ginyong and tells him not to be nervous or anxious about the upcoming game because he got this opportunity to pitch with his own skill and talent, so he should be confident and believe in himself. However, Ginyong looks a little creeped out and confused by Junhyang's sudden words of encouragement, not really sure how to react. Seeing his reaction, Junhyang quickly explains more clearly, saying that he's only saying this because Ginyong looked nervous during the last game when the score gap got really big. He tells him that he just wants him to pitch well this time to help the team recover and make up for the loss they had in the previous match. Afterward, Ginyong changes the topic, saying the weather looks like it's going to rain soon, which confuses Junhyang because it's sunny. Meanwhile, the Angels team scout meets up with the interviewer at their usual spot, saying that he already passed all the required documents and paperwork, so the interviewer should start writing the articles about the players as soon as possible. However, the interviewer looks confused and surprised and asks the scout if he has been drinking alcohol in broad daylight because his request seems unusual and out of nowhere. Because of this awkward question, the scout quickly changes the topic of conversation and says that he also edited and updated the scout report of the Titans team this morning to make sure everything is accurate. The interviewer then asks the scout if there are not any players on their team that will use the scout report properly and take it seriously, but the scout pulls out his phone and shows him a picture of Ginyong on the screen, saying that this guy runs and trains like he is already in the big leagues playing at the highest level. It turns out that Ginyong just strikes out a whole bunch of batters from the other team one after another without letting them score even a single point on the board. Meanwhile, Taeyong, who is the Titans' fourth batter in their lineup, realizes that Ginyong's accuracy is really good and hard to hit against, but he tells his teammate Hyung-seep to take care of Ginyong and deal with him when the fourth inning comes around. Right after their talk ends, the fourth inning begins, and Ginyong throws 2 perfect strikes against the batters, showing that his control over the ball has improved a lot compared to his earlier games. After those solid pitches, Hyung-seep comes up next to bat and confidently steps up to the plate. Ginyong throws the ball toward him, and Hyung-seep hits it, but it goes straight to the shortstop, who quickly throws it to first base, getting him out. Suddenly, Hyung-seep becomes furious after being out and starts walking angrily toward Ginyong on the mound, looking like he's about to pick a fight or even attack him. It turns out that Hyung-seep has always had a bad temper and was involved in several school violence incidents back in high school. On top of that, even after turning pro, he kept causing trouble by yelling at his seniors and even getting into a fight with a fan, which led to him earning a bad reputation and a nickname for his behavior. Because of everything he had done in the past, people already had a feeling about what Hyung-seep would do even before he ran onto the mound at the start of the fourth inning. That's why no one was really shocked or even tried to stop him when he suddenly charged straight toward Ginyong. Furthermore, Ginyong quickly dodges and avoids Hyung-seep's punch just in time, barely missing it by a second. But when Hyung-seep tries to attack again and goes for another punch, Junhyung rushes in right away and blocks the hit, stepping in to protect Ginyong from getting hurt. After that tense moment, Ginyong shouts loudly at Hyung-seep, telling him to get off the mound and leave right now, which actually scares Hyung-seep and makes him back away. Watching all of this unfold, Jinho comments that this is exactly what the Titans wanted from the start, as they planned everything ahead of time just to mess with Ginyong's mind and throw him off his game. Ginyong quickly says that the Titans wanted to intimidate him and make him lose his focus on the game. Right after the fight gets broken up, the third batter from the Titans arrives at the field and steps up to bat, and he thinks to himself that Ginyong will keep losing his control because of the bench-clearing brawl that just happened, and Ginyong will probably be mad and angry, which gives him a high chance of not being able to throw properly anymore. After that, Ginyong throws his first pitch toward home plate and the umpire calls it a strike. The players from the Titans start wondering why their batter isn't swinging at the ball, since it looks like something he could easily hit. However, the batter thinks to himself that Ginyong must still be shaken after the bench-clearing fight they just had, since it was probably the first one he's ever seen in his career. He figures that if Ginyong threw the first pitch like that, then the second one will likely be more serious and careful because Ginyong will want to prove he's not scared. However, the second pitch that Ginyong throws also gets called a strike, leaving the batter even more tense than before. Then, when Ginyong throws the third ball, it turns out to be a perfect splitter, and the batter completely misses it, striking out right away. After that clean strikeout, one of the senior batters from the Titans steps up to the plate for his turn, thinking to himself that Ginyong had actually planned everything. He realizes that Ginyong threw the first 2 strikes by pretending to make mistakes pitches on purpose and then tricked the batter into swinging at the third one, finishing him off perfectly. After that, the first pitch becomes a foul and the second one is another strike because it is a splitter, but on the last pitch the batter expects another splitter and swings for it, only to miss and send the ball straight into the catcher's glove. Jinho remembers how, in past bench-clearing brawls when players rush the field and trample the space around him, he loses his temper and feels hot. However, he holds the batter tight in those moments. He vows he never lets anyone set foot on his mound again and does whatever it takes to crush anyone who tries. That day, when Kim Jinho only had splitters and four-seam fastballs in his pitching style, he managed to get 11 strikeouts in a row and set a brand new record in the major leagues that no one had ever achieved before. But now, that same moment from history is happening all over again, as Ginyong also strikes out 11 batters in a row for the first time in his career. As a reward for his incredible performance, he even receives a special platinum roulette ticket. Right after this amazing moment, Jinho starts teasing Ginyong again like he always does, saying that any normal pitcher would be celebrating and enjoying the moment right now. But Ginyong answers that the game isn't over yet, so there's no reason for him to celebrate just yet. Jinho then points out that Ginyong's batters have not got a single point scored yet, and that is why they are sitting there in the dugout in a bad mood feeling disappointed. However, the team members start wondering why, even though their pitcher struck out 11 batters in a row and played an almost perfect game, they're still not winning, which feels really embarrassing for all of them. Meanwhile, Ginyong thinks to himself that if the game keeps going like this without any runs scored, he'll probably have to go back up to pitch again in the 8th inning, and if things don't change, he might even end up being recorded as the losing pitcher despite having such an amazing performance. Just then at that exact moment, Ginyong gets ready and prepares to go to the mound to bat for their team, and this gives a huge relief to Ginyong, who was worried about the situation. Right after that, the game keeps going and Ginyong gets 2 strike balls called on him one after another, which makes him start wondering what's going on with the opposing team's pitcher and why he's throwing like that. Ginyong thinks carefully and realizes that the pitcher seems to be using only 2 types of pitches, relying completely on fastballs and forkballs without mixing anything else. Then, all of a sudden, the pitcher throws a forkball straight toward home plate, and Ginyong swings hard, sending the ball soaring deep into the outfield. The Angels players jump up from the bench and cheer loudly, celebrating the powerful hit with pure excitement. Meanwhile, over at the Angels advertising team office, everyone is going wild with excitement, and one after another, the staff members ask the team leader if they can write an article about Ginyong. But the team leader refuses each time and tells them to skip it. Then another worker mentions that someone requested an interview with Ginyong, but the team leader tells him to skip that too. After a while, the team leader starts losing his mind, trying hard to come up with the perfect word to describe Ginyong. Just then, one of the staff members suggests calling him Wu as his nickname. While all of this is happening at the office, Ginyong is in the washroom, lost in thought about something important. Ginyong then quickly uses the diamond roulette ticket that he got earlier as a reward for his performance in the game. The diamond roulette spins and gives Ginyong a special ability called Ball Master, but Ginyong decides to skip another roulette spin and save it for later. After skipping that one, he then earns another skill named Steel Man from the system, and this particular skill catches Ginyong's eyes and gets his attention immediately. On the other hand, the ground and field are cheerful and full of celebration for the Angels team because of their victory today, and even the interviewers and reporters are getting ready to start conducting interviews of the players who performed well. Right after the celebration, the reporter named Young-un meets up with Ginyong to take his interview and ask him questions about his game. However, Ginyong is completely stunned and dying inside because he has never seen a goddess like her before in his entire life. Young-un congratulates Ginyong for becoming the new star in professional baseball history after his incredible performance, but Ginyong doesn't say anything back and just keeps staring at her blankly, looking like a clown who can't think straight. After a few awkward seconds, he suddenly snaps out of it and starts talking nonsense, saying random things that don't even make sense. The interviewer is completely shocked by his strange behavior, so she quickly tells him that the interview time is limited and she has to wrap it up right away. At the end of the interview, Ginyong says his now famous word, which is just woo, and nothing else. That one simple word surprises everyone watching so much that even the interviewer and the cameraman get emotional and start tearing up. Later that night, after everything has settled down, Ginyong walks back to his room feeling embarrassed and awkward because he ended up getting scolded for shouting during the live broadcast. However, when he gets there, Jinho then tells Ginyong to show him his stat window and check his abilities, but Jinho's mood gets completely frustrated to see such high skills and abilities that Ginyong has gotten so easily. After that, Ginyong notices Ginyong fast asleep and snoring loudly, which makes him wonder how late he must have stayed out practicing last night. Just then, Jinho starts yelling at Ginyong, saying that since he's now a starting pitcher, he needs to start managing his stamina properly. But it's clear that Jinho is also annoyed about Ginyong getting so many new skills recently. Ginyong thinks to himself that out of all his A-rank pitches, he only has the 2-seam and the splitter, and both are already really good. However, Jinho says that this kind of thinking shows Ginyong's immaturity. He explains that there are other types of pitches he should work on raising to master rank 2, like the 4-seam, curveball, and slider. Hearing that, Ginyong asks if Jinho means that he should wait until all his other pitches reach A rank first. Suddenly, Ginyong upgrades his splitter to the master rank S, which shocks Jinho, so Ginyong says that he knows he was baiting him. 3 days later at Ravens Park, the Angels win their game at the end of the 11th inning, and everyone is shocked that after 3 straight matches against the Ravens, the Angels come out as the final winners. However, the commentator keeps focusing on Ginyong, wondering out loud if he's praying or doing some kind of religious ritual on the mound. Out of nowhere, Ginyong suddenly shouts something random, leaving everyone watching completely confused. After shouting, Ginyong turns to Jinho and asks if this yelling thing is actually supposed to work like he said it would, wondering if it really has any effect. Jinho answers confidently, saying that Ginyong can be happy and healthy just by shouting whenever he feels like it. But Ginyong immediately says he doesn't believe him at all, reminding Jinho that last time he claimed Ginyong's pitching speed would increase if he wore thongs on his feet, which turned out to be completely false. The next day, it's the first game of the series between the Angels and the Goyang Rangers, and Yunseo comes all the way to the stadium just to watch Ginyong pitch. Yunseo believes that everything would have been alright if she didn't drink that day and scolded him. Just then, Ginyong arrives and Yunseo tells him that she came to check the readiness for the game to cheer him, but Ginyong notices that she is actually blushing right now. After that, the two of them sit down at the desk and for a while, neither of them says a word. Then, Ginyong finally breaks the silence and asks Yunseo if she came because she still doesn't trust him yet. He tells her that he understands since she's someone who wants to see the Angels win more than anyone else, but now he also truly wants the team to win just as much. Hearing this, Yunseo asks him which player he looks up to the most, and Ginyong replies that he respects Jinho the most. However, when she asks if he plans to copy Jinho's pitching style, Ginyong says that he's going to try something different today as he plans to pitch like Tom Glavine. After that, the match starts, and the first batter from the Goyang Rangers is Daeyoon, who thinks to himself that Ginyong's pitching today looks different from before, feeling a bit unstable and not as sharp as usual. As he keeps thinking about it, Daeyoon feels that with pitching like this, it's hard to see a moment where the Rangers could really have the upper hand against him. Furthermore, he thinks that especially since Ginyong already gave one based on balls in the first inning and now has two runners on base in the second inning already. However, Daeyoon also thinks that the Angels team did not research on them, but then suddenly Ginyong throws his ball towards the plate. But it gets called a strike ball because the batter is not paying attention and gets caught off guard. Right after the call, Daeyoon then yells at the referee, saying that the course of the ball was on the outside of the strike zone and should not count, but the referee does not listen to him at all. Afterward, Ginyong throws another ball and the batter thinks that 'tis the same course as the last throw and it gets another ball. Just then, another batter arrives and Ginyong throws another strike ball at him, but the batter gets confused and asks the referee if he is sure about that. Ginyong then throws another strike ball towards home plate, and the batter again asks the referee about whether it was really a strike or not, so the referee tells him to be quiet. Right after that warning, the batter gets struck out completely with another pitch ball from Ginyong that catches him off guard. Ginyong then earns several rewards and bonuses from the system for his flawless pitching performance in the third inning without allowing any runs. Jinho then appreciates and praises Ginyong for his work, saying that he did not know Ginyong would pitch this well today because Jinho actually thought that Ginyong would lose control on balls by the time the third inning came around. After that, Jinho explains to him that the strike zone has gotten bigger since the more balls there are, the less strict the referee becomes about calling a strike. Then, the fifth inning starts with the Angels on the attack, but their batters keep striking out one after another because of Kang-hoon, the opposing team's pitcher, who throws pitches at a speed of 152 km per hour. Kang-hoon feels that his body is light and that he can control his throws perfectly, but when he looks over, he sees Ginyong also striking out his teammates just as easily. The Goyang coach then asks one of his staff members how many pitches Ginyong has thrown so far, and the man replies that it's now 79 pitches up to the fifth inning, yet surprisingly, Ginyong doesn't show any signs of getting tired. Still, the coach thinks to himself that they need to come up with a new plan from their side soon. After that, Kang-hoon returns to the mound and strikes out another Angels batter, making the whole crowd cheer loudly for him. Meanwhile, Yunseo thinks to herself that by the sixth inning, he has already thrown 83 pitches, but pitchers who go for perfect games usually don't get tired even after passing 100 throws, and it feels like the game's atmosphere is already in their favor. She also notices that Kang-hoon is still throwing pitches in the 150s even after reaching 100 throws, which makes her believe that he truly has God-gifted shoulders, and if the Angels want to win this match, they will need something close to a miracle to make it happen. After that, it becomes Ginyong's turn to pitch again and he notices that the other team's batting order has changed. Ginyong starts wondering if the batter is planning to swing first and think later. He also thinks that the batter will probably swing without any hesitation the moment the ball enters the strike zone, but if the pitch that reaches there is a two-seam fastball, then it could completely change the flow of the game. Afterward, Ginyong throws the pitch and successfully strikes the batter out, which earns him a roulette ticket from his system. Soon after, the seventh inning ends, and it turns out that every single out in that inning was also from a strikeout. Seeing that, one of the players from the other team starts thinking that Ginyong might actually be pitching a perfect game, something that has never happened in Korea before. He figures that the lower-end batters will be coming up in the 7th inning, so instead of trying to raise their on-base percentage, they'll probably focus on dragging out as many pitches as they can to wear Ginyong down. Right after thinking about this plan, Ginyong manages to strike out another batter, and just like that, the opposing team's players keep getting out one after another without landing a single hit. Still, Ginyong feels that something is definitely off about how the game is going. After getting another out, he strikes out yet another batter and starts thinking that the other team keeps changing their plans and strategies depending on his pitching style and what kind of throws he uses. Even so, he feels lucky that he's been able to hold them off until now, but he also worries that if he isn't careful, they might finally manage to hit one sooner. Moreover, Ginyong thinks that the other team has a proactive and strategic coach, which is definitely their strongest point. After that, Ginyong steps up to the mound with full confidence like always and hits an amazing shot just like he usually does. Meanwhile, the Angels reporter watches everything and thinks that it's time to write an article about Ginyong, describing him as the pitcher with a face that has allowed no hits and no runs so far in the game. After that, the other team's perfect game finally ends and the whole crowd starts cheering loudly for Ginyong instead. Seeing this sudden change, Jinho comments that everyone who had been cheering for Kang-hun's perfect game is now cheering for Ginyong, but he also wonders why Ginyong is walking so slowly. It turns out that Ginyong is doing it on purpose so the crowd's attention stays on him longer and their cheers become even louder. After that, Woo-young from the other team steps up to the mound, thinking that it's only a 1-point difference and that they still have a good chance to catch up. Ginyong throws his pitch, but the ball ends up hitting the batter's body, which leaves Woo-young completely shocked. However, Ginyong doesn't seem bothered at all and doesn't care about following Tom Glavine's style anymore. Meanwhile, Woo-young thinks that first pitch actually makes things easier for him because now, if he just focuses on picking the balls that fall right into the strike zone, he can easily hit one like that without much trouble. Afterward, Ginyong throws another ball towards home plate and Woo-young thinks to himself that this throw is definitely a splitter pitch coming his way. However, the ball suddenly disappears in the middle of its path and drops down, and Woo-young gets called for a strike ball because he swings and misses completely. After that amazing pitch, Ginyong goes on to strike out 3 batters in a row, earning several points along with a platinum roulette ticket from the system as a reward for his incredible performance. Right after that, Ginyong does his signature Woo celebration move, similar to Ronaldo's famous sway celebration that everyone recognizes. Then, all of a sudden and without any warning, the interviewer rushes over and quickly pulls Ginyong to her side of the field so she can interview him right away while he's still filled with excitement from his outstanding game. However, Ginyong doesn't really want to do the interview because he knows that if he doesn't spin the roulette soon, he won't be able to focus properly on it. So, he decides to spin the roulette right there on the field while also answering the interviewer's questions at the same time. As the roulette stops, Ginyong receives an ability called the Pitching Enhancement Elixir, which instantly makes his day. After that, he ignores her second question and spins the roulette once more, and this time, he earns a new skill called Ace, which boosts all of his pitching abilities even further. Afterward, Ginyong's no-hit no-run got the attention of many baseball fans and the mass media, so the next day it was another game in Gocheok. However, in the second of the 3 consecutive games, the other team got their revenge on the no-hit no-run game with a complete shutout. In the end of the 9th inning, Junghyun of the Rangers Gocheok hits a game-changing 2-run home run. Regardless of Ginyong's performance, the 2 losses against the Gocheok put a hole in the fans' hearts. The next day, Ginyong analyzed the Devils while Junhyung sleeps. Juno says that the Devils are currently in 4th place and have been playing much better recently, but Ginyong thinks that they should first watch games 1 and 2 before making any plans. After that, Ginyong dresses up neatly in formal clothes and goes to visit Jinho's grave since it's his death anniversary. However, once he gets there, he and Jinho start arguing like usual because Ginyong didn't bring any meat for him to eat. Then, all of a sudden, Yunseo arrives at the grave as well to pay her respects to Jinho. She tells him that when she was younger, Jinho used to play baseball with her often, and he even knew her grandfather, who was her biggest role model growing up. After that, Yunseo explains to Ginyong what team down means. It's when a team gets an early lead in the game, but because they're not strong or skilled enough, they eventually fall apart and lose in the end. As she thinks to herself, Yunseo realizes how amazing it would be if the Angels had a pitcher like the legendary Jinho on their team right now, and without even noticing it, she starts to expect more from Ginyong, hoping that he could become that kind of player someday. However, Ginyong replies by saying that if just one average player gets better, it won't really change the whole team's performance. But if that player is a real leader who can guide the team to victory every time, then the entire team will start to improve and grow stronger together. After saying that, Ginyong explains further that instead of just being teammates who play side by side on the same roster, if there's someone on the team who everyone can look up to as a role model, then the team can truly change. He then tells her that it might be hard for her to trust him right away, but if she chooses to believe in him and give him her support, he will do everything he can to lead the Angels to victory. Hearing that, Yunseo replies that what he's saying sounds risky, because if he gets the organization's full support but fails to deliver good results, both he and she will face serious consequences. Still, Yunseo starts feeling a bit suspicious and asks him what he personally gains from winning the Angels, but before he can answer, her stomach suddenly growls. After that, Ginyong places some food at Jinho's grave and starts walking away, but on his way out, he runs into a white-haired lady who asks if he came to pay his condolences. The woman then tells him that he should clean up the food he left there before he goes, and hearing that, Ginyong quickly remembers about it. A moment later, he finds out that the woman is actually Jinho's mother and she asks him if he came all the way there because he is one of Jinho's fans. However, she then asks why it had to be Jinho, since there are so many other players to look up to. Ginyong and Yunseo both answer that it's because Jinho was an incredible person who completely dominated the major league. The woman sighs and thinks to herself that Jinho left everything behind too soon, passing away before even reaching 40, but she still feels thankful that a young couple came all the way to this quiet place to visit him. Hearing that, both Ginyong and Yunseo panic and start freaking out, quickly waving their hands and explaining that they're not a couple at all, clearing up the misunderstanding as fast as they can. Ginyong introduces himself properly as the Angels team's pitcher who plays for them, and Yunseo introduces herself as the operations manager who works behind the scenes for the organization. Furthermore, Jinho's mother speaks up and says emotionally that Jinho really wanted a World Series ring more than anything in his career, but he never got one and left the world like this without achieving his biggest dream. Hearing those sad words from his mother, Ginyong finally realizes that Jinho was a player who had achieved countless records and accomplishments throughout his baseball career. However, there was still one thing missing from everything he had achieved: the World Series championship title, the one victory he had always dreamed of but never managed to win. Moreover, Jinho's mother tells them to carry on her son's wish as well, saying they should always aim high, and she adds that when she looks at Ginyong, she feels like she can see her son in him. After talking for hours, they all decide to leave, and as Ginyong walks away, he thinks to himself that the story about Jinho losing a game when he was 8 years old and getting so upset that he refused to eat for 3 days finally makes perfect sense now. After that, Ginyong asks Jinho if he wants to say something to his mother, but Jinho replies that he doesn't, because the last thing he ever told her was that he would come back with a winning ring, yet he ended up like this, so he feels he doesn't deserve to say anything now. Hearing that, Ginyong tells him that he can win in his place and bring back the World Series winning ring for him. Suddenly, Ginyong's mother accidentally picks up the baseball from Jinho's grave, and when she decides to throw it back to Ginyong, she ends up throwing it exactly the same way Jinho used to. Later, while they're leaving, Yunseo turns to Ginyong and asks if he wants a ride back. On their way, Ginyong starts acting like a broke guy again, saying he feels guilty for enjoying something so luxurious. Yunseo glances at him and says he looks a little too comfortable for someone who's supposed to feel bad, but Ginyong quickly replies that it's only because her car is really comfortable. After a while, Ginyong offers her some food, thinking she might be hungry, but Yunseo says she already ate plenty of the food that Jinho's mother brought. Then, remembering his words from earlier, she mentions that he said one leader could change an entire team and asks if he can really take responsibility for them all. Ginyong says that the leader he envisions has the power to do so, but Yunseo asks why that leader has to be him. Furthermore, she says that she admits he is skilled enough as a player, but skill alone isn't enough to be a leader of a team. She then tells him that she is now a representative of the Angels, and before appointing a new leader, she wants to ask him something important. If he were to become the team's leader, could he truly guarantee that the Angels would win this year? However, Ginyong asks her how many players on the team are actually betting their lives on achieving victory. Ginyong explains that only player on the team who truly aims for victory and cares about winning is Junhyang, while the rest of the players are more focused on maintaining their individual skills to secure long-term free agent contracts for themselves in the future. After explaining that, Ginyong then adds that he is completely different from them because his only goal and mission is to make sure that this year, the Angels team finally lifts the championship trophy and wins it all. Moreover, Ginyong says that he wants to change this negative atmosphere inside the Angels team by using his power and influence as the team leader to motivate everyone. After that, not a single word is spoken between them until they finally arrive at their destination, But then Yunseo makes a promise to him that the Angels organization will wholeheartedly support him from this day forward no matter what happens. Afterward, she gives Ginyong the car keys and tells him that this car is proof of the promise they are making together, and she decides to give him the power and responsibility of being the team leader so that he can take the Angels team to victory this season. Yunseo goes back to her own car where her driver is waiting for her and tells him to take her to the Hyunsung Group headquarters building right away. On her way to the headquarters, Yunseo thinks deeply about everything Ginyong said and realizes he's right. The Angels haven't won a championship in more than 20 years, and if anyone can change that this year, it's her and Ginyong working together. Later that night, when everything settles down, Jinho reminds Ginyong seriously about their deal that if the team wins the championship, he will leave and let Ginyong move forward toward playing in the major league without him. The next day, it's the first game against Suwon Dogs and Ginyong continues to hold the mound alone, pitching a scoreless game until the 9th inning. However, due to the Angels lineup to refuse to break the game enters extra innings. At the beginning of the 10th inning, Junhyong's home run made the score 1-0 and then Ginyong appeared as well, pitching 10 shutouts. Moreover, in the ongoing 3-game series against the Daegu Raves, Chansey provokes Ginyong but Ginyong, who was originally scheduled to pitch in the 3rd game, willingly accepts the provocation and ends up pitching the 1st game. Because of Ginyong's special skill called Ace, he manages to defeat the opposing pitcher Chansey and wins the shutout game without allowing any runs at all. Moving forward in the season, at the 2nd game against the Gwangju Dolphins team, the game goes into extra overtime innings at 0 points against 0 points until the 9th inning with no winner yet. Unlike Ginyong, who shows brilliant and amazing performance by winning 3 consecutive shutout games in a row, the Angels batters begin to feel fear and pressure about not being able to score runs. Ginyong tells Jinho that he pitched a full 11-inning game yesterday which was exhausting, and it was only possible for him to do that because of the Iron Horse skill he has that gives him extra stamina. After that, Ginyong checks his stat window on the system and thinks to himself that he already has a wide range of different pitches and 3 master rank skills in his arsenal, so there is really nothing for him to complain about right now. Jinho then suggests to Ginyong that he should try pitching with his left hand instead of his right to develop a new skill, but Ginyong instantly rejects the idea without giving it a second thought. A little while later, Ginyong walks out of the dormitory and gets into his car, the one he worked hard for and saved money for over a long time to finally buy. As he starts the engine, Jinho asks why he's leaving so early in the morning when he just pitched a full 11 innings yesterday as the starting pitcher, saying he should be resting his body instead of heading out again. However, Ginyong says that the former team manager, Yunseo, promised him something, so he wants to see it with his own eyes. After that, he heads into the locker room to check how his seniors played, but he finds everyone sitting there with gloomy faces. He quickly realizes that Yunseo must have taken some kind of action toward the team, and it caused a chain reaction among them. Just then, a reporter shows up and pulls Ginyong away for an interview. While he's gone, the players start gossiping about how the former team manager lent one of her favorite cars to Ginyong, and some even start assuming that they might be dating. Meanwhile, Ginyong tells the interviewer honestly that pitching a complete game in 11 innings may be a one-time thing that he accomplished, but it is not something he wants to do twice because it was exhausting, but if he has to take the mound again in the 10th inning or later, he will give his all and everything he has to dominate the opponent and come out on top. Once the interview is finally over and done with, Ginyong wonders to himself that he made a clear request to the squad and told them directly that they should score runs up to the 7th inning when he takes the mound next time so he does not have to pitch so long. 3 days later after that interview, on the day of the Angels vs Devils first game of their series, the reporters talk about Ginyong taking the mound again after he threw an incredible 11 innings in his last game just a few days before. One of them thinks that the coaching staff surely advised Ginyong to take sufficient rest, but Ginyong volunteered to take the mound. Ginyong further thinks to himself that he will use this opportunity to solidify his position on the team because he received a personal car as a gift, and in the interviews that followed after that, he issued a stern warning to his team to play properly and give their best effort. Meanwhile, Jinho tells Ginyong that the Angels batters are quite intimidated and scared by Yunseo's presence because their batter is trembling and shaking but still standing there at the mound trying to hit. Moreover, Jinho thinks seriously that the other team's pitcher named Justin Butler is not an ordinary pitcher at all and has real talent. Jinho thinks that even if Justin's fastball is not extremely fast compared to other pitchers, with that level of control and movement on his pitches, he can definitely succeed in the United States major leagues as well. Right after that, Ginyong prepares to step onto the mound to start pitching, thinking to himself that their opponent looks like a team that has already given up on trying to score any runs against him. Then, the Devils team's batter named Jong-hoon walks up to the plate feeling confident that he will not be beaten easily this time around. Ever since their last game against Ginyong, Jong-hoon and his team have been studying and analyzing all of Ginyong's pitching patterns and movements carefully, and now he believes that he can handle any pitch that comes his way even with his eyes closed. However, right after the game begins and the first pitches are thrown, Jong-hoon takes 2 quick strikes in a row and realizes with shock that the way Ginyong controls and moves his pitches is on a completely different level from anyone else he has ever faced before. Afterward, Ginyong sits back on the bench, wondering what's wrong with Jinho and why he is staring at him like that. Jinho then says that he didn't do anything particularly wrong, but 'tis just his first time seeing a psycho like him. However, Jinho soon realizes that the word psycho is a bit harsh and too mean to say to someone, so he apologizes to Ginyong for using that word. Hearing that apology, Ginyong feels disgusted and weirded out because it is the first time Jinho has ever apologized to him for saying something like that in their entire relationship. Right after that awkward moment, Jinho tells Ginyong that when God first created humans, he gave them different abilities and traits to carry, and one of those was the feeling of burden and pressure that most people experience. However, Jinho thinks aloud that it seems like Ginyong doesn't have that burden feature at all, as if God forgot to give it to him. He points out that even though Ginyong's build and posture make him look bigger and stronger than others, when you actually look closely, his body weight and frame are smaller and lighter than they appear. Later on, Ginyong thinks that their main focus right now should be on simply getting on base, even if it means getting hit by a pitch. He believes the team's top priority is to build up the batting order slowly and steadily instead of swinging wildly or getting greedy for big hits. However, Ginyong soon realizes that the real issue isn't with their lineup but with the opposing team's pitcher, Butler, who isn't leaving even the tiniest opening for them to take advantage of. Afterward, Jinho asks him if he truly believes they can score any runs today if things keep going like this, since Butler's pitching so far has been nothing short of perfect. Hearing that, Ginyong realizes that Jinho is absolutely right because those fastballs flying at over 140 miles per hour from a height of more than 2 meters are nearly impossible to hit, even if a batter knows exactly when they're coming. Ginyong then starts wondering if there's any possible way to deal with that, but Jinho casually tells him in his own strange way that he should just use factual violence as the solution. However, Jinho then starts explaining about what it truly means to be an ace, saying that aces are the kind of players who go beyond the point of simply wanting to win. They become so consumed by their desire for victory that they can't accept losing to anyone else. After that, Jinho goes on to explain everything in detail and eventually brings up Kang-hoon, reminding Ginyong about the time he ruined Kang-hoon's perfect game. He says that Kang-hoon must have been extremely frustrated and angry with himself for being caught off guard by a rookie like Ginyong, losing his no-hit and no-run record, and ending up being replaced as the pitcher. Meanwhile, Butler gets 3 strikeouts and everyone starts cheering for him. Afterward, Ginyong steps back onto the mound, ready to face the next round of batters. The Devils hitter swings with all his strength but can't even make contact with the ball. He thinks to himself that his batting average this month is .370, the best of his entire season, yet even when he predicts where the pitch will go, it's still impossible to hit. Then, Ginyong throws another sharp pitch, and the batter goes down with a strikeout. The next 2 batters follow the same fate, unable to handle his throws, and just like that, the 4th inning ends with 3 consecutive strikeouts. Meanwhile, one of Ginyong's fans in the stands starts wondering why he hasn't done his famous woo celebration this time and guesses that maybe his throat is sore from shouting it too much in recent games. Meanwhile, Jinho tells Ginyong confidently that he's going to make sure he reaches the major league one day because he can already imagine him standing on that mound, provoking the batters and throwing blazing fastballs at 100 miles per hour. Afterward, Jinho realizes that the game is unfolding exactly the way he described a fiercely intense battle where one side ends up battered and dragged off the field by their teammates. However, he also understands that such tension isn't easy to create since these are professional players who go through endless training and practice just to keep their cool and not fall for any provocations from their opponents. Meanwhile, the players from the Devils team are really furious and angry at Ginyong, and they cannot wait to beat him and get revenge on the field. Another guy from the team speaks up and says that based on his analysis and observations, he concluded that Ginyong does not consider them as real opponents at the moment and does not take them seriously. The player explains further that tigers always do their best when hunting rabbits no matter how small the prey is, but they do not roar just because they succeeded in catching one rabbit, so he thinks that they cannot criticize someone for being quiet and calm on the mound during the game. However, another batter says that Ginyong has improved more than their analysis showed and they can't even get on base. Hearing that, One of the other players gets irritated and says that no matter how good a pitcher might be, they'll eventually break down, and until they find a way to create a scoring opportunity, they just need to make sure not to give up any runs. After that, Butler closes out the 5th inning with a strikeout, and this time, he lets out a loud howl that ends up annoying everyone on the field. As the bottom of the 5th inning begins, the real showdown starts, a tense chicken race between Ginyong and Butler, with both pitchers giving everything they've got and showing off incredible throws. However, even in the 6th inning, Ginyong keeps his momentum strong, finishing it off with more strikeouts and ending the inning with another clean 3 outs. Meanwhile, the crowd keeps wondering why Ginyong keeps glancing at the scoreboard so often, trying to figure out what's going through his mind. On the other hand, the Angels batters start thinking that they have to find a way to score no matter what if they want to win this game. While watching from the dugout, Ginyong notices something unusual. Butler's arm angle looks slightly lower today whenever he throws his slider. He starts to wonder if Butler's payoff pitch for the day is the slider, and maybe without realizing it, Butler exposed his weakness because he was being too conscious of Ginyong's presence on the field. Afterward, everyone's mood changes and thanks Ginyong for analyzing that perfectly. Then, the batter of Angels manages to hit a home run shot and the score just ties just like that. Afterward, Ginyong's hit reaches the top of the spectator stands as he does back-to-back home runs. Following that, Butler decides to leave the mound as they can't afford to lose another point. Finally, the 7th inning begins, and it's the Devils' turn to go on the offensive as Ginyong makes his way back to the mound. Everyone in the stands starts to wonder why he keeps glancing up at the scoreboard so often, even though he's already pitching an incredible game with an outstanding record so far. Some fans think he might be doing it on purpose, as if he's trying to send a message or keep his focus sharp. Meanwhile, the Devils players are visibly agitated, getting worked up over Ginyong's constant looks toward the scoreboard. The first batter up for the Devils is Young-hoon, who, despite feeling a bit nervous, has always been the ace of his team ever since his days in the small leagues. He's held that position and never once let it slip away. However, Ginyong uses his fighting spirit ability and other abilities together to throw the ball with everything he has, which reaches 139 km/h as a fastball, and just like that the batter gets out without making any contact. Right after that success, Ginyong manages to strike out a whole bunch of other batters one after another, and now it is already the bottom of the 9th inning with only 3 outs left until he achieves a perfect game. Ginyong strikes out another batter and lets out his iconic "woo" shout, which visibly angers the Devils. However, he quickly reminds himself that it's the bottom of the 9th inning with 2 outs, and there's only one more batter standing between him and a perfect game. Determined, he decides to throw his most perfect pitch yet to quickly settle the game and determine the winner. At the same time, he notices that the catcher, Senior Hakan, is also visibly exhausted, which means there's a high chance he might misjudge a splitter-like changeup if he's not careful. Moreover, the fielders are also feeling a lot of pressure from playing such tight defense, and there's always the risk that one of them might miss a ground ball and accidentally let a runner get on base because of an error. Then, Ginyong decides to throw a changeup, and even though the batter manages to hit it, Ginyong reacts quickly and catches the ball with ease. With that final play, the game ends with the Angels' victory. Ginyong then receives a diamond roulette ticket from the system as a reward for completing a perfect game and successfully achieving what he set out to do. Right after that, the commentator announces excitedly that the first ever perfect game pitcher from Korea is born on the Angels team, and it has been so long since the Angels achieved such an incredible and historic record as this. However, Ginyong manages to create history as the only one pitcher who managed to get all 27 outs without allowing a single player to reach first base during the entire game. Right after celebrating with his team, the interviewer quickly comes over and takes his interview to ask him about his feelings, and Ginyong gives a sweet and heartfelt message for his fans that supported him until the very end of the game. After thanking the fans, Ginyong then says emotionally that the only way to repay this gratitude and appreciation is by leading the Angels to victory in the championship, so he is planning on giving his all and everything he has, even if he has to burn himself out completely, to bring the victory to the team. Later that night, Jinho scolds Ginyong for openly talking about winning and making promises to the fans. He gives a warning that if they fail to win the championship, the disappointment and resentment from the fans will be even stronger and more painful than ever before. However, Ginyong reflects on it and accepts that, since he made his statement publicly in front of everyone, he will have to face the consequences no matter what happens in the end. Right after that, Ginyong opens his roulette rewards from the system and he realizes that this diamond roulette has really flashy and impressive skills available, so he decides to spin it and see what he gets. The roulette spins around and around, and then it finally gives Ginyong a special skill known as Fireballer. Later that night, Ginyong goes out on some running around the field to exercise when he runs into Ginyong, who is training there as well at the same time. Ginyong tells Ginyong directly that he is not sure about other players on the team and their commitment, but he is determined and focused to put the Angels at the top of the rankings this year no matter what. After running together for a while, Ginyong gets done with his running and finishes his workout, but he wonders to himself how many more times Ginyong plans on running laps around the field. All of a sudden, without any warning, Yunseo appears out of nowhere and scares Ginyong by showing up unexpectedly, and she congratulates him warmly on his perfect game that he pitched earlier today. She then tells him that she had some work with the operations team and stopped by to personally give her congratulations. Some time passes in silence, and she starts feeling suffocated being around him, thinking it would be better to just convey her message properly and leave. However, Ginyong breaks the quiet, saying that in today's interview he promised to lead the Angels to victory, and those weren't empty words, as he genuinely intends to do whatever it takes to make the Angels win this year. Then, he asks a favor that if he wins 3 or more games in the Korean series, she should grant him whatever he wishes. Hearing that, Yunseo completely loses her composure, thinking he might be some kind of freak. She quickly decides to leave, saying she needs some time to think things over. Later, Jinho asks Ginyong if he's a big fan of senior Choi Dong-X, who won the Korea series 3 times. 3 days after that, the Angels staff notices a flood of comments online cursing Ginyong, but another staff member shrugs it off, saying there's no reason not to expect that. He explains that since Ginyong openly declared he would win the championship, it's only natural that people would criticize him. He adds that Ginyong is already an exceptional player, so it makes sense for him to be compared to a monster like Maeda X. However, the other staff member says that if Ginyong reached the mid-140 km range he would be worthy of challenging the major league. The other guy says that if he hits 140 km, all the scouts from Korea and Japan will flock to him. Afterward, the Angels win the series against the Devils with a 2-1 record. In the first game against the Hawks, the Angels' relaxed defense makes several mistakes right from the first inning, giving away their lead, and their batting lineup struggles, striking out repeatedly. In the end, the Angels lost the first game with a score of 14-5. On the day of the third game against the Hawks, everyone in the stadium starts cheering for Ginyong, believing that he will lead the team to victory this time. The first batter from the Hawks team steps up to the mound, but the Hawks coach thinks that Ginyong looks as excited as a kid throwing a ball for the first time. Another coach reassures him not to worry, saying that no pitchers have ever escaped Ginyong's careful analysis. Meanwhile, the batter feels nervous too, realizing it's his first time facing such a wild pitcher who laughs like a maniac. As soon as he gets into position, Ginyong throws a fastball straight into the catcher's mitt perfectly, and the pitch registers at exactly 140 km/h. Earlier before the game started, Ginyong realized that his speed had been increased by 4 km/h because of the fireball skill he got from the roulette system. After realizing this, Ginyong kept spinning the roulette over and over again until his pitch speed would reach exactly 140 km/h like he wanted. Back to the present, Jinho is mad and confused that Ginyong's speed suddenly jumped to 140 km/h without any warning or explanation. However, after calming down a bit, Jinho then asks Ginyong if this speed increase is really good for him because his stamina consumption is doubled now and he will get tired faster. On the other hand, the batter from the opposing team thinks to himself that it is impressive that Ginyong threw a pitch that reached 140 km/h in speed. Meanwhile, the Hawks coach watches from the dugout and thinks that even though Ginyong's speed has reached 140 km/h now, they would still win this match without too much trouble. The coach thinks that a player who normally throws a 130 km/h pitch, even if they grit their teeth and push themselves to throw 140, they are still just pitchers capable of throwing a 130 km/h pitch at their core. However, Ginyong proves him wrong by throwing 2 more pitches that both reach 140 km/h, which surprises everyone watching, including the coach. In the end, Ginyong manages to strike out 3 batters in a row and wins the match for his team. How high do you think Ginyong's fastball velocity will get before he conquers the major leagues? Comment fastball if you want to see Ginyong's journey continue. Make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more sports manhwa content.